Chapter 27:17. The path of inheritance, the road. I don't want to do anything. I just want to test the soul crystal and see if it works. Yi Fei said indifferently. After all, the golden vermilion bird had been extremely vicious the moment it appeared. Yi Fei naturally had to use the appropriate methods to make the vermilion bird understand the situation it was in. The golden vermilion bird's face revealed a trace of anger and unwillingness. However, the soul crystal was already in Yi Fei's hands. As long as Yi Fei wanted to, he could destroy its soul at any time. The golden vermilion bird could only lower its head and say, "Human brat, you win. Didn't you want to enter the golden door? Come with me now." As it spoke, the golden vermilion bird had already opened the true golden gate. Soon after, it turned back into a fist-sized little red bird and was about to fly onto Yi Fei's head. However, Xiao Qiao saw the little red bird's burning feathers, and her eyes lit up. With a swoosh, she reached out to grab the little red bird. Yi Fei couldn't help but laugh. "Xiao Qiao, I'll leave this bird to you. If it causes trouble, use the God-striking whip and teach it a lesson." Then, Yi Fei lifted his foot and walked into the golden door. Xiao Qiao also grabbed the little red bird that the golden vermilion bird had turned into and excitedly returned to the beast mark space. He began to research how to make the little red bird more fun. The great vermilion bird ancestor had been reduced to a toy in the hands of a little girl. Even the golden vermilion bird couldn't help but shed tears of regret. It hurriedly shouted, "Let me out. Otherwise, I will never tell you the secret of the great void. If you don't tell me the secret of the great void, don't even think about Xiao Qiao letting you out." A simple smile appeared on Yi Fei's face. However, this smile caused the golden vermilion bird to feel an indescribable grievance. Thus, it could only obediently tell Yi Fei the secret it knew. The golden vermilion bird's expression was very serious. "The great void has the inheritance of the ancient heavenly emperor. It is said that whoever finds this inheritance will obtain the opportunity to become a heavenly emperor." "What did you say, celestial emperor?" Yi Fei was shocked. An ancient god was already a godlike existence in the heaven realm. As a celestial emperor who is even stronger than an ancient god, how terrifying would that be? However, the golden vermilion bird was saying that the celestial thearch's inheritance was here. How could this be? If there was a celestial emperor's legacy, the sects of the sacred region would have sent all their forces to fight for it. How could they let us juniors train here? You lied to me. Yi Fei's face suddenly darkened. The golden vermilion bird flared up with rage. "My soul crystal is in your hands. How could I lie to you?" In the great void, there was indeed the legacy of the celestial emperors, and it was even more terrifying than any of the celestial emperors in the sects of the sanctuary. However, this heavenly emperor was far too powerful. The heavenly palace he left behind was something that even a heavenly emperor of the same realm could not break open. Only a divine Lord Junior could pass through the inheritance test left behind by this heavenly emperor and obtain a key to enter the heavenly emperor palace. You all thought that the sects of the sanctuary opened up the great void to select talents, but in reality, they were just using you all to obtain the key to the heavenly emperor palace. The golden vermilion bird's words completely overturned Yi Fei's understanding of the sects of the sanctuary and the great void. He did not want to believe the golden vermilion bird's words, but now that the golden vermilion bird's life was in his hands, there was no need for it to deceive him. Yi Fei's heart was in a mess. To think that there was such a truth hidden in the great void. However, if this is the path of inheritance set up by the ancient heavenly emperor, why would there be a test for the sects of the sanctuary? Yi Fei did not understand. After all, whether it was the light bridge or the golden arena, they were all tests set up by the ancient gods of the sanctuary. They had nothing to do with the path of inheritance. The golden vermilion bird chuckled coldly. "Ha ha, this is how cunning the sects of the holy region are. If they hadn't set up a few tests beforehand, wouldn't the news of the celestial thearch's inheritance be known to everyone? You must know that there is competition between the sects of the sanctuary as well. Kid, what else do you want to know? Do you want me to tell you everything?" The golden vermilion bird cackled strangely, causing Yi Fei's hair to stand on end. As the saying went, the more one knew, the faster one would die. The Heavenly Emperor's legacy was important, but his own life was undoubtedly more important. Yi Fei thought about it and decided not to ask any more questions. He continued to walk forward. After walking for about an hour, a huge floating island appeared in the void in front of them. There were ancient stone tablets in front of the islands, but most of the words on them had been deliberately erased. Only a few words were left, words that even Yi Fei could not recognize. Yi Fei's heart stirred. He asked in a low voice, "Senior, what is this place in front of us?" Kid, listen carefully. The previous tests were just a trick used by the sects in the sanctuary to deceive others. From now on, the real path of inheritance will begin. The closest ancient road of inheritance to us is called the path of blood refinement. If you can pass this ancient road of inheritance, you will obtain a kind of miraculous item that can strengthen your bloodline. The golden vermilion bird's words caused Yi Fei's expression to change. Currently, the greatest difference between him and a peerless genius was his bloodline. If there really was a heavenly treasure that could raise the grade of his bloodline, this was definitely something that Yi Fei dreamed of. "Senior, may I ask what I need to do to pass through this path of blood refinement?" Yi Fei asked. He had already decided that he had to pass through this path of blood refinement. The golden vermilion bird replied, "It is very simple. After entering, you will encounter all sorts of puppets set up by the ancient Heavenly Emperor. Only by defeating those puppets will you pass the test. Otherwise, you will die. So if you can fight, then fight. If you can't, then retreat. After all, the inheritance is important, but our lives are more important." In this void, in addition to the blood-refining steel, there were more than a dozen void light bridges that extended to different voids. However, these light bridges were more ancient and mysterious than the light bridges that the Sacred Region sects used to open up the Great Void. In Yi Fei's heart, he finally began to believe that the previous two tests were really just a cover-up by the Sanctuary sect. Obviously, these light bridges in front of him were the beginning of the path to the inheritance. It was also the beginning of the rise of many martialists. Yi Fei looked at the dozen bridges with a serious expression. Finally, he lifted his foot and walked towards the nearest stone tablet that had the path of blood refinement engraved on it. Boom! When Yi Fei stepped over the stone tablet and walked onto the bridge that had the path of blood refinement engraved on it, a pair of ferocious stone eyes appeared on the stone tablet. They coldly glanced at Yi Fei before slowly closing their eyes. Chapter 27:18 Seal of Life and Death. Yi Fei finally understood why the ancient god had sealed everyone's bloodline and treasures in the Great Void City, and even forbade the use of the divine powers of the Celestial Emperors. On the surface, this seemed to be the Sanctuary sect's way of ensuring fairness in the assessment. However, the fundamental reason was that this was the inherent rule of the legacy path. By the way, Senior Vermilion Bird, I wonder if I'll be able to meet my friends inside? Walking on the light bridge alone, Yi Fei could not help but think of Di Fan, Ji Feng, and the others who had parted ways. He wondered if they were doing well, and if Bai Yanran and Chu Ling had adapted to the fierce competition in the Great Void. The golden vermilion bird was being tossed around like a toy by Xiao Chao. At the same time, the vermilion bird spoke with a cold arrogance. You won't meet each other. At the beginning of the path of inheritance, there will only be one person. Furthermore, there will be different levels of difficulty. For example, if you pass through the golden door, you will be able to choose the highest level of difficulty and undergo a trial. Once you pass through the trial, your rewards will also be enormous. After crossing the light bridge, a huge island appeared in front of them. Although it was called an island, it was more like a special battle space. It was surrounded by barren mountains, and there was not a single trace of life. However, Yi Fei did not dare to let his guard down. The moment he stepped onto the island, his consciousness quickly swept out. Then Yi Fei saw that there were 12 golden coffins erected on top of the originally empty mountain range. The moment they sensed Yi Fei's divine sense, the golden coffins all opened with a bang. 12 mighty men wearing golden battle armor walked out. Their eyes were like knives, and their auras were like fire. The only difference was that these men were all lifeless. Only their bodies remained. At the same time, an ancient and hoarse voice came out of the leader's mouth, like two pieces of magnets rubbing against each other. Divine Martial Guards, Golden Armor General, please select the difficulty of the trial. 3 people? 5 people? 10 people? Or all 12 of us together? Yi Fei couldn't help but speculate that the number of Golden Armor Divine Generals he challenged might be the difficulty of this test. Yi Fei suddenly had a plan. My bloodline is now grade 10. If I challenge the normal difficulty, I'm afraid it will be difficult to suppress the Void Serpent and improve my bloodline. I've decided. Seniors, please come to me together. Yi Fei strode forward and bowed respectfully to the 12 Golden Armor Generals. Even though they were only corpse puppets refined by the ancient celestial emperor, Yi Fei still maintained his respect. This respect caused the Golden Armor General to nod and let out a rare, cold voice. The highest difficulty is to challenge the 12 of us. If you can kill your way out, you win. If you can't kill your way out, you will die. Kill. Kill, kill, kill. Following the leader's voice, the other 11 Golden Armored Divine Generals all woke up from their deep slumber. They opened their pale eyes indifferently, and an aura like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood appeared on their bodies. Seal of life and death. These Golden Armored Divine Generals formed a circular formation. Their auras were connected, and they charged at Yi Fei from their respective mountains. They didn't show any mercy because of Yi Fei's respect. Yi Fei wasn't angry. He had refined corpse puppets before, so he naturally knew that once a corpse puppet received an order, it would carry it out without any hesitation. Yi Fei didn't even think and pulled out the golden vermilion bird from the beastmark space. Senior Vermilion Bird, it's up to you this time. The golden vermilion bird immediately scolded. Brat, you're shameless. You don't want to fight, but you use the old ancestor as a shield. Don't you know that once you enter the ancient path, any divine arts practitioner, even a celestial emperor, will have their cultivation sealed? Bam! As he spoke, Yi Fei saw that the golden vermilion bird, who was so arrogant in the golden arena, was actually kicked to the ground by one of the Golden Armored Divine Generals. At the same time, a strange seal struck the golden vermilion bird. The golden vermilion bird was already screaming in pain. It was forced to transform into a flame, barely escaping the fate of being killed by the 12 Golden Armor Divine Generals. It flew back into the beast mark space with its wings bare. The Golden Armor Divine Generals were slightly stunned. However, they were corpse puppets after all. They only knew how to fight and didn't think too much. When they saw that the golden vermilion bird had disappeared, all the Divine Generals immediately surrounded Yi Fei. Yi Fei couldn't help but grumble inwardly. The reason why he had chosen the highest difficulty without thinking was because the golden vermilion bird was present. He wanted to rely on this ancient vermilion bird to kill everyone in the Great Void. In the end, it turned out that the golden vermilion bird was so weak. Yi Fei wanted to discuss with the corpse puppets to see if they could lower the difficulty. However, the corpse puppets didn't give Yi Fei any time to speak. When the 12 Golden Armor Divine Generals rushed forward, they had already activated the seal of life and death. 12 identical seals of life and death were formed and smashed viciously at Yi Fei's body. This powerful pressure caused a thin layer of cold sweat to appear on Yi Fei's forehead. However, his feet continued to step forward. With every step he took, a terrifying sword light shot up from the ground. When Yi Fei took the 12th step, the entire void was filled with terrifying sword light. These sword lights tore through the sky and shattered the heavens. However, what happened next caught Yi Fei completely off guard. In the face of Yi Fei's powerful sword light, the seals in the hands of the 12 Golden Armor Divine Generals suddenly changed. They actually overlapped with the seals from before. Not only did they continuously shatter Yi Fei's sword light, but the 12 seals of life and death also suddenly merged into an even more powerful seal that blasted mercilessly at him. Boom! Boom, boom. Wherever the seal of life and death passed, even the void collapsed. Countless terrifying cracks appeared. Yifei's forehead was once again covered in cold sweat. He was even a little dumbfounded. He clearly saw that the Golden Armor Divine Generals had used a different seal technique this time. However, why was this seal technique able to overlap with the seal technique from before and continue to strengthen the seal of life and death? Yifei was also filled with doubts when he was struck by the huge seal of life and death. His body was immediately sent flying out of his control. While he was still in midair, he exploded into countless pieces. What a terrifying seal of life and death. It really determines life and death with one seal. Chapter 27:19. Kill. This. The Golden Armor Divine Generals did not stop attacking just because Yifei was injured. On the contrary, their ferocity was completely aroused. Once again, they fired off their life and death seals in unison towards Yifei. However, this time, the life and death seals were clearly different from the previous two times. Not only were the seals formed, but the aura they exuded was also very unfamiliar. Yifei this time, Yifei was completely stunned. These Golden Armor Divine Generals had clearly released 3 different types of seals, but why did they all turn into life and death seals in the end? Even more, what terrified him the most was that the seals released by the 12 Golden Armored Godly Generals could stack with each other, allowing the life and death seals to surround Yifei from all directions. Boom! Seeing the 12 life and death seals coming towards him in layers, Yifei no longer dared to continue blocking. Instead, he suddenly used spatial transference and instantly teleported out of the encirclement of the Golden Armor Divine Generals. Continuous explosions came from behind him. Due to Yifei's sudden disappearance, the life and death seals of the Golden Armor Divine Generals did not hit Yifei. Instead, because of Yifei's sudden disappearance, they hit their comrades. The 12 Golden Armor Divine Generals were stunned. Yifei's eyes also lit up at this moment. Corpse puppets were corpse puppets after all. Although the power of their stacked life and death seals was very strong, they were not without weaknesses. As corpse puppets, these Golden Armor Divine Generals are not very intelligent. It can be said that they are completely relying on their instincts to fight. Furthermore, the fighting style of these Golden Armor Divine Generals is also fixed. They cannot be as flexible as real warriors. Yifei discovered this point when these corpse puppets were hit by his attacks. After all, for warriors, even if they could not hit their targets, they could not cause accidental injuries to each other. Because this was so that cultivators could react in advance before they accidentally hurt their allies, so that their divine abilities would dissipate before they hit their allies. However, these corpse puppets were straightforward and didn't know how to be flexible at all. There was only one possibility. The attacking style of these Golden Armor Divine Generals had a pattern. Once he discovered this pattern, he would be able to find a way to break them. But what was it? What was the pattern of attack of these Golden Armor Generals? Senior Vermilion Bird, can you tell? Yifei muttered to himself as he asked the Golden Vermilion Bird. In the beast mark space, the Golden Vermilion Bird was using its soul power to repair its bald wings. When it heard Yifei's question, it immediately scolded angrily. The patriarch offended someone and was captured into the Great Void. He did not barge in on his own. How would I know the pattern of these things? However, you could try attacking one and see. Considering that its life was still in Yifei's hands, the Golden Vermilion Bird still reluctantly gave a few pointers. Yifei's eyes lit up. After all, the Golden Vermilion Bird was a super elite of the ancient Emperor realm and had lived for thousands of years. Whether it was in terms of experience or knowledge, Yifei could not catch up to it. Of course, previously, Yifei's attention had been completely divided on the 12 Golden Armored Generals, so he was unable to deal with them and was even in a rather sorry state. However, after the Golden Vermilion Bird's reminder, Yifei finally came to his senses. Without the assistance of his bloodline and treasures, it was simply impossible for him to defeat the 12 Golden Armored Generals at the same time. Since that was the case, What he could do now was to gather all his strength and attack one of them. Only then would he have a chance of defeating them one by one. As he thought of this, Yi Fei's body surged with a strong fighting spirit once again. Kill. 10. After a short moment of confusion, the two golden armor divine generals quickly stabilized themselves and once again formed a tight formation before charging towards Yi Fei. However, this time, before the golden armor divine generals could surround him, Yi Fei had already let out a low roar and used the spatial manipulation technique. In an instant, he had moved from the front of the 12 golden armor divine generals to behind them. Kill. However, this time, the golden armor divine generals reacted very quickly. They suddenly turned around and didn't give Yi Fei any chance to dodge. The whistling seals of life and death were like 12 special divine seals that suppressed the heavens and the earth as they came crashing down on Yi Fei. Ancient god golden body, rising dragon in the sky. Yi Fei wasn't afraid. Facing the layers of seals of life and death that came crashing down on him, Yi Fei immediately activated his ancient god golden body. Blazing purple gold flames condensed into the most brilliant ancient god light, instantly increasing Yi Fei's defense to a level that even Renzu found terrifying. Boom, 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 boom. The seals of life and death continued crashing down on Yi Fei, but they couldn't break Yi Fei's golden body in a short period of time and hurt Yi Fei's body. At the same time, the undying sword soul behind, Yi Fei burned fiercely and instantly condensed the most powerful sword principle light. With a boom, Yi Fei stepped out from under his feet and suddenly charged towards the nearest golden armor divine general. That golden armor divine general's expression didn't change. He was extremely cold as he activated a new seals of life and death once again. It was cold and emotionless as it clashed with Yi Fei's sword light, creating a loud boom. At this moment, a hint of madness flashed across Yi Fei's eyes. Suddenly, a deafening dragon roar came from his hands. Just as the golden armor divine general was using all his strength to block his sword light, Yi Fei's fists roared like dragons as they punched out. Under the same realm, the golden armor divine general couldn't block Yi Fei's two consecutive great void superpowers at the same time with just the seals of life and death. Another terrifying boom. The golden armor divine general's golden armor was shattered and his chest was pierced through by the terrifying sword light. He instantly lost the ability to fight. Yi Fei was shocked that one of the golden armor divine general's pieces seemed to be attracted by some kind of power. It actually turned into a golden page and fell into his palm. This scene stunned Yi Fei once again. The golden vermilion bird, who was hiding in the beast-marked space and watching the battle, suddenly reacted and shouted loudly, "Old ancestor, understand now. That page is the seals of life and death that these corpse puppets have cultivated. As long as you defeat them, you will obtain the complete seals of life and death." Boom! The golden vermilion bird's reminder made Yi Fei's head explode. At this moment, he finally understood why these golden armor divine generals could release the seals of life and death even though they used different seals. They could even merge perfectly. I see. This stage doesn't just test the warrior's fighting ability. It also tests one's observation and comprehension ability. Not only do I have to defeat these corpse puppets, but I also have to comprehend the seals of life and death on their bodies. Only then will I be considered to have passed the test. Yi Fei's eyes were no longer filled with doubt. Instead, they were filled with a strong fighting spirit. Chapter 27:20. Boom, boom, boom. The fall of a golden armored puppet didn't make the other golden armored divine generals feel any fear. After all, as corpse puppets, they didn't know fear or even death. The 11 golden armored divine generals once again got into formation and charged mercilessly at Yi Fei. However, with his previous experience, Yi Fei was even more proficient in this battle. He very quickly found a slightly weaker golden armored divine general and used the space diversion again. He immediately rushed in front of the golden-armored divine general and used the Taiji Calamity Sword and the Rising Dragon Fist at the same time. With just one strike, he shattered the golden-armored divine general's armor and made it lose the ability to fight. At the same time, another piece of armor fell into Yi Fei's hand. However, before Yi Fei could sense it, he suddenly sensed an extremely dangerous aura. Before he could react, he felt a sharp pain on his back. After all, although the ancient god Golden Body's defense was terrifying, it also had its limits. When the ancient god Golden Body reached its limit, it would shatter and Yi Fei would be injured as well. Just now, the other 10 golden armored generals had joined forces to launch the seal of life and death at him while he was attacking. Finally, they had shattered Yi Fei's ancient god Golden Body. If Yi Fei hadn't reacted quickly and used his spatial ability to move far away, he would have become a corpse by the time he defeated the golden armored general. Oh no, this is going to be difficult. I was able to defeat the golden armored divine general because of the ancient god Golden Body's defense. Without the ancient god Golden Body, I wouldn't have been able to defeat these golden armored divine generals alone. Yi Fei's expression suddenly changed. The golden body had been destroyed and couldn't be reformed in a short period of time. If these golden armored divine generals suddenly went berserk, Yi Fei wasn't confident that he could withstand them. Senior Vermilion Bird, what should I do now? Yi Fei asked the golden vermilion bird's opinion instinctively. The golden vermilion bird looked at Yi Fei as though he was an idiot. Idiot, if you can't beat them, you can run. Run to the mountain over there. Although I haven't entered the ancient road of inheritance, I know that any trial, there must be a chance of survival. Yi Fei couldn't help but nod. At the same time, he felt that having an experienced bird like the vermilion bird by his side was very useful. Immediately, Yi Fei decided to try the vermilion bird's suggestion. He immediately took a step forward and rushed to the nearest mountain. The golden armored divine general, the golden armored divine general. Yi, the vermilion bird. Vermilion, the vermilion bird general. Your idea is your idea. Come. Yi vermilion the golden vermilion bird general. Vermilion had vermilion bird general, Tia divine general, the Tia of ancestor, the patriarch ancestor, the ei ancestrensis words. It ancest T. The golden vermilion bird went against its will again. Yi Fei didn't say another word. He would rather take another attack to rush down the mountain. He didn't do this because he believed the vermilion bird. He believed that the vermilion bird wouldn't play around with its life. If Yi Fei failed the test and was killed, the golden vermilion bird, whose spirit stone was in Yi Fei's hands, would be buried with him. This was the reason why Yi Fei accepted the vermilion bird's advice without hesitation. Roar! Seeing that Yi Fei did not accept the challenge and had instead charged up 2 mountains, the remaining 10 golden armor divine generals roared violently. However, they did not charge up the mountain like before. Yi Fei was very confused. What's going on? When I rushed to the first mountain, the golden armored divine general chased after me. Why did they stop when I rushed to the second mountain? I see. There are 12 mountains here, which represent 12 golden armored immortal generals. The immortal general on the mountain that you rushed to before was not defeated by you. Therefore, they could continue to chase after you. However, this time, the immortal general on the mountain that you rushed to has been defeated by you and could not return to the mountain. Therefore, the other immortal generals could not rush up here. The bald little red bird rushed out excitedly and landed on Yi Fei's shoulder. It chirped nonstop. Yi Fei's eyes lit up when he heard this. That means I can continue to hide on the mountain. When my golden body recovers, I can go down the mountain and continue to defeat these golden armored divine general one by one. Stupid bird, you might be recovering, but don't tell me the 2 corpse puppets you injured won't recover. I guarantee that their recovery speed will be faster than your golden body. The golden vermilion bird mocked mercilessly. Yi Fei couldn't be bothered to retort. He slapped the red bird on his shoulder to the ground. He rubbed his chin and said, "There's still time. Even if I can't recover my golden body, I still have to think of a way to comprehend the seal of life and death in my hands. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy, and thou shalt be victorious in every battle." Since Yi Fei couldn't win with his golden body, he could only try to comprehend the seal of life and death to see if he could find any flaws or weaknesses in the seal of life and death. Of course, Yi Fei had already thrown the golden vermilion bird back into the beastmark space. At the same time, Yi Fei took out the 2 golden pages and quickly comprehended them. However, Yi Fei's comprehension speed was slightly slower because he couldn't use the indestructible sword token. But it didn't matter. The indestructible sword token couldn't be used, but the dragon turtle could. Big Black turned into a ball. Yi Fei roared and activated the Dragon Emperor weapon. The dragon turtle, who was still consolidating its divine Lord Realm cultivation, turned into a crystal ball again. At the same time, he used the dragon turtle's deduction ability to continuously deduce the seal of life and death. Huang the golden vermilion bird also opened its eyes wide and looked at the dragon turtle in disbelief. This seems to be the Dragon Clan's imperial weapon art. Strange, shouldn't an imperial weapon only have one form? How did this black fatty cultivate to have 2 forms? The second form is actually a very rare deduction ability, even among the Turtle Clan. As it spoke, the golden vermilion bird had already stretched its neck and wanted to get closer to take a closer look. Suddenly, a small hand reached out from the side and grabbed its body. The hand threw it on the ground and wanted to slap it. Unfortunately, the golden vermilion bird wasn't like the dragon turtle, who bounced up after being slapped. Xiao Xiao was immediately filled with disappointment. She felt that this strange bird wasn't fun at all. However, she didn't notice that the golden vermilion bird had already burst into tears. Chapter 27-21. Roar. That. The golden-armored general roared furiously at the provocation and sent a seal of life and death at Yi Fei. However, the golden-armored general seal of life and death only had 1 seal, while Yi Fei's seal of life and death had 2 seals. As the 2 seals overlapped, they were naturally more powerful. When the 2 seals of life and death collided, the golden-armored general seal of life and death crumbled instantly. At the same time, it was pushed back by Yi Fei's seal of life and death. At this moment, Yi Fei suddenly stood up and rushed down mountain. At the same time, he used the spatial diversion to attack the golden-armored general that had been pushed back. Roar! The surrounding golden-armored generals all went berserk. 9 consecutive seals of life and death formed a chain that bombarded Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei's face was filled with madness. While using the Mad Demon battle technique to increase his battle strength, he also sent out 9 soul cauldrons to resist the 9 seals of life and death. At the same time, Yi Fei formed another seal in his hand and sent out 2 more seals of life and death. The golden-armored general stumbled and fell to the ground. It let out an indignant roar. With a crack, the golden-armored general's armor shattered, and a golden page fell into Yi Fei's hand. Only, Yi Fei didn't even have time to rejoice. Behind him, the soul cauldrons that had resisted the 9 seals of life and death were smashed to pieces by the seals of life and death before they landed on Yi Fei's body again. At the moment, Yi Fei's ancient divine golden body had yet to recover. All he could do was stomp his feet on the ground and unleash another burst of intense sword light from his feet. This sword light condensed into a Taiji sword diagram. With a whoosh, it split the sky and earth and once again blocked the great seal of life and death on the 9 golden-armored divine generals. However, the seals of life and death were executed by 9 divine Lord Corpse puppets. Even though the Taiji sword diagram was activated, Yi Fei only managed to block it for a moment. The 9 seals of life and death had already shattered the Taiji sword diagram and continued to bombard Yi Fei's body. At this moment, even the golden vermilion bird became nervous. After all, without the advantage of bloodline and treasure, Yi Fei didn't have much of an advantage at the same level. If Yi Fei was killed, the golden vermilion bird would be in trouble as well. That rascal he is too reckless. The patriarch will die because of him. Boom! Another terrifying sword light condensed in Faye's hand. However, this sword light wasn't aimed at the golden armored generals. Instead, it was aimed at Faye's body. Wah! Bam! Even though Fei had been mentally prepared, he still couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. However, the powerful impact of the sword light still sent Fei's body flying towards the mountain peak. Outside, the 9 golden-armored generals roared furiously. Their 9 seals of life and death were about to kill Fei. But in the end, Fei used a method that was almost self-mutilating to escape to the top of the mountain. Freak! This rascal is a freak who plays with his life. He was using his own sword projection to attack the golden-armored divine general in order to obtain a chance to escape. Even the golden vermilion bird was dumbfounded by this idea. A smile appeared on Fei's face. This method is a little cruel, but can help me escape danger and give me more time to comprehend a stronger seal of life and death. Blackie, help me deduce. Fei said. Fei held the crystal ball that the dragon tortoise had evolved into with one hand and the newly obtained golden page with the other as he continued to comprehend. This time, Fei only spent a quarter of an hour to completely comprehend the life and death great seal in his hands. Kill. No. He didn't even have time to recover from his injuries. The moment Fei finished learning the seal of life and death, he pounced on the 4th golden armored general. Fei. However, he still used the same method. He used the space diversion and the seal of life and death that had been stacked up to 30% to open a path. Then, he used his own sword light to attack himself before the other golden armored generals could join forces to attack him. In the following period of time, the golden vermilion bird suddenly experienced how crazy and reckless a person could be when they were serious. Just like this, Fei used almost masochistic methods. Every once in a while, he would rush down the mountain to defeat a golden-armored divine general and snatch the golden pages from them. While Fei's mastery of the seal of life and death became stronger and more complete through his comprehension of the seal of life and death. Finally, when he had stacked up the seal of life and death to the 7th level, Fei finally stopped using his sword light to torture himself. Instead, his eyes suddenly turned cold. 2 of the layers of the seal of life and death bombarded the targets he had chosen. The remaining 5 layers of the seal of life and death collided fiercely with the stacked seals of life and death of the 5 golden armored generals. Boom! A loud boom was heard. The seals of life and death of the 5 golden armored generals and Fei's seal of life and death had mutually annihilated each other. Neither side could do anything to the other. As for the lone golden armored general, his golden armor was shattered by Fei's 2 stacked seals of life and death, and he lost the ability to fight. The golden vermilion bird also looked at Fei in disbelief. This kid actually succeeded. He defeated more and more golden armored generals through self-torture. The seal of life and death that he mastered will only become stronger and stronger. This seemingly undefeatable situation was actually turned around by him. Although Fei wasn't a peerless prodigy, the golden vermilion bird felt that he was more terrifying than some peerless prodigies. The scene that followed completely confirmed the golden vermilion bird's judgment. Following Fei's mastery of the seal of life and death continued to increase. His battle prowess also increased by leaps and bounds as he comprehended the seal of life and death of the 8th golden armored general. Fei ignored his injuries and charged out of the mountain to fight the remaining 4 golden armored generals. At the same time, with 8 stacked seals of life and death, these golden armored generals were no longer a match for Fei. Clang! After the last golden armored general with the golden page was defeated by Fei, Fei's seal of life and death seemed to have reached great mastery. He even felt that with just one more step, this seal of life and death would evolve from a great void stage mystique to a heavenly emperor stage mystique. Same as sat this moment, the fallen golden-armored generals stopped attacking. The leading corpse puppet said in a cold and mechanical voice, "Those who can defeat the divine martial guard within 3 days and reach great mastery of the seal of life and death can pass the test and enter the heavenly emperor blood pool." Boom. 10. Chapter 27-22. Yi Fei stared at the vast pool of blood before him. Although it was called a blood pool, it was actually a huge lake that was filled with a terrifying source energy. This is the Celestial Emperor's source energy. Refining it is equivalent to consuming a divine elixir. Kid, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and rush in. This blood pool can not only improve your bloodline, but can also remove the bloodline restrictions in your body. As he spoke, a little red bird with a bald wing impatiently struggled free from Xiao Chao's grasp and wanted to be the first to rush into the blood pool. Look, Xiao Chao's face stiffened when he saw the strange bird trying to escape. He suddenly stretched out a vine whip and dragged the little red bird down. At the same time, he hurriedly stepped on the strange bird for fear that it would escape. The golden vermilion bird couldn't help but cry. The patriarch was also an all-powerful vermilion bird back in the day. Now he's been stepped on by a little girl. The more he thought about it, the sadder he became. The little red bird that the golden vermilion bird had transformed into was actually like an inflated rubber ball. Xiao Chao was amazed and quickly withdrew his foot. He picked up the golden vermilion bird again and slapped it around like a rubber ball. The golden vermilion bird's face darkened immediately. The power of the Celestial Emperor's blood pool was much stronger than Yi Fei had imagined. When he walked in, a wave of rich source energy surged toward his body like a torrential flood. I wonder if the Celestial Emperor's source energy will be enough for me to break the seal and improve my bloodline. Yi Fei wondered nervously. As soon as he entered the blood pool, he sat down in a lotus position and began to work hard to refine the Celestial Emperor's source energy. Same as Yi Fei's mind wasn't on his bloodline, but on the sacred dragon's eye that had merged with his body. The sacred dragon's eye had turned into a half-black, half-white little sacred dragon that coiled in Yi Fei's dantian like another spirit. Only what vexed Yi Fei was that the sacred dragon's upper body was in the form of a sacred dragon, but its lower body was in the form of a void snake. At this moment, sensing that Yi Fei was about to use the Celestial Emperor's source to break its seal, the sacred dragon suddenly transformed into a dragon with a snow-white lower body and an evil black serpent upper body. Its huge triangular eyes were filled with malevolence and viciousness as it roared at Yi Fei. "You won't be able to break my seal. I am the Void Serpent. We were born from the bloodline and continue from the void. Since your bloodline has already deteriorated to that of a mortal, then you should obediently kneel on the ground and become my cradle." The void snake roared with all its might. Its huge snake head even tried to swallow Yi Fei's consciousness. However, the sacred dragon's eye's sacred dragon was like a mountain, suppressing the void serpent until it couldn't move. Apart from roaring in place, it couldn't harm Yi Fei at all. And even so, Yi Fei's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the void serpent. This was a strange, evil spirit born from his bloodline seal. It was the biggest obstacle to his growth. Even if he couldn't kill the void serpent now, he definitely wouldn't let it have an easy time. Here Yi Fei's heart stirred. He suddenly transferred all the refined Celestial Emperor's source to the sacred dragon's eye. The void serpent's huge triangular eyes immediately flashed with anger and fear. It started to roar angrily. Layers of terrifying void venom formed a terrifying toxic light that protected it. Yi Fei wasn't surprised. If the bloodline seal in his body was so easy to deal with, then it wouldn't have evolved into a mysterious void serpent. However, Yi Fei wasn't discouraged. "I don't have much now, but I have a lot of Celestial Emperor's source. Let's see who can outlast the other. Celestial Emperor's source, burn for me." Boom, boom. Yi Fei started to use his consciousness to automatically ignite the refined Celestial Emperor's source, forming a special divine fire that burned towards the void serpent. The void serpent immediately let out an even more intense roar. Almost instinctively, it started to control Yi Fei's bloodline, drawing upon the power of the void and constantly extinguishing the source fire that approached it. In this way, Yi Fei's consciousness and the void serpent snake spirit entered a stalemate in the celestial emperor blood pool. While on the other side of the ancient road of inheritance, there were two beautiful figures. Every day, they would stand in front of a door of light, waiting for someone to appear. At that door of light, from time to time, cultivators who had passed the test of the ancient road of inheritance would be transported over. They were all people who had passed the test of the ancient road of inheritance. It was just that the difficulty of the test was different, so the rewards they received from the Celestial Emperor were different. However, no matter who it was, when they walked through this door of light, they would involuntarily look at the two beautiful figures not too far away. After all, beautiful women were always able to attract people's attention. Furthermore, these two beautiful women with outstanding temperaments were standing together at the same time. This inevitably made many people curious. Who exactly was so fortunate to be able to make these two beautiful fairies raise their heads in anticipation every day? However, very soon, people saw a deep look of disappointment in the eyes of these two women. What should we do? There's still no news of Yi Fei. Humph! Master said that this fellow is a jinx and won't die so easily. Master even specially warned me not to get too close to this jinx. My father said the same thing. He even told my brother to keep an eye on me. Bai Yanran blinked her eyes. She was very fond of Chu Ling and suddenly felt regretful that they hadn't met earlier. During the period of waiting for Yi Fei, their friendship had improved by leaps and bounds, and they had begun to call each other sisters. Wu, the more he envied them, the more he wished he could join them and become sworn sisters with Chu Ling and Bai Yanran. However, when he saw Bai Shizhong glaring at him covetously and raising his knife to cut him down at any time, Wu Yu decisively shut up. Bai He had just narrowly passed the test in the silver door. He did not want to taste death again so soon. However, after waiting for more than 10 days, Yi Fei still had not appeared. Wu Yu could not help but feel anxious. It's been so long, and Yi Fei still hasn't appeared. Do you think Yi Fei can really pass the test of the Golden Door? We can't, but he definitely can. He's a person who is good at creating miracles. The person who spoke was Fu Renjie. He was the first person to pass the test of the Silver Door. At Fu Renjie's side was Di Fan and Ji Feng. However, more than half of the young Sir Gods from family Zhuang who had followed them and had already died in the test of the Silver Door. Moreover, the number of martial artists that had passed through the light bridges controlled by the three ancient empires and entered the arena was close to 10,000. But now, there were less than 3,000 martial artists that had truly arrived here. A large portion of them had chosen this path of inheritance from other light bridges. However, Yi Fei was not among these people. This. Chapter 27-23. This was also the reason why Bai Yanran and Chu Ling waited here every day. They hoped that Yi Fei would walk out of the door in the next moment. However, to their disappointment, Yi Fei didn't appear. Instead, they heard a cold, mocking voice from a short distance away. You don't have to wait for Yi Fei. Only a peerless genius can pass the test of the Golden Door. That Yi Fei has not appeared for so long, he is most likely dead. Unfortunately, this person has the ability, but he is too stupid. Of all people, he offended Lu Mohan. It can be considered that he deserved to die. Fairies, don't keep thinking about that Yi Fei. He's handsome and has good talent. As long as you agree to follow me, I guarantee that I won't treat you unfairly. Finally, the crown prince of an ancient nation spoke in an even more unbearable manner. He directly began to tease Qin Yu, drawing in many mocking gazes. Of these people, some are martial artists from ancient nations, but most of them had come from other bridges and had chosen this road of inheritance. There wasn't just one path of inheritance from the ancient heavenly emperor. There were many branches. Martialists who entered the path of inheritance could choose the most suitable branch according to their own talents and characteristics. Emperor Fan and the others hadn't expected that the three crown princes would choose the same branch as them. Their expressions were ugly. Jifeng and the family Jiwang youth behind him were furious and murderous. However, before they could make a move, a strange, cold laugh came from another direction. Jifeng, your family Jiwang had better behave. Otherwise, the Ancient Alliance wouldn't mind cleaning you up right now. The crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms weren't the only ones who had chosen this ancient path of inheritance. Even the Ancient Alliance had sent a large number of people to choose this path. The person leading them was the Ancient Alliance's deputy leader, Sikong Hao. He was the young master of the Sikong family. When family Zhuang had still been in the Ancient Alliance, he had suppressed Sikong Hao and forced Duanmu Kai to agree to appoint Ji Feng as the deputy alliance leader. Although the family Zhuang had left the Ancient Alliance and Duanmu Kai had given the position of deputy alliance leader to Sikong Hao still felt uncomfortable about being picked up from the streets. When he saw that the family Jiwang seemed to be in conflict with the three ancient nations, Sikong Hao naturally didn't mind. He led the Ancient Alliance's martialists to step forward and trample on Jifeng. The three ancient nations' crown princes were delighted when they saw this. Wu the crown prince immediately walked over and greeted them warmly. So it's the senior brothers of the Ancient Alliance. I've heard so much about Brother Sikong. How about this? Are you interested in joining us temporarily on this path? Sure, but how should we split the spoils? Sikong Hao didn't refuse. After all, the Ancient Alliance wasn't the strongest on this ancient path. They didn't need allies to ensure the greatest benefits. The three ancient nations' crown princes were rather bold. In order to rope in the Ancient Alliance, which had a peerless genius overseeing it, they exchanged glances. Then, the crown prince of the Wu nation said forthrightly, "As everyone knows, those who pass through the silver door can obtain some sort of opportunity in the great void. The people before us have all passed the test of the silver door. Our three ancient nations can help the Ancient Alliance and get them to hand over all the opportunities they have. Those two fairies seem to have a good relationship with Yi Fei. We can also capture them and make them servants." The other two crown princes also spoke up icily. Their eyes swept over by Yan Ran and Chu Ling unceremoniously. "Sure. However, I want to play with those two girls first." Sikong Hao ordered haughtily. The three ancient nations' crown princes were a little angry. However, when they thought about their enmity with Yi Fei, they hardened their hearts and said, "All right, we'll do, as Brother Sikong says." In an instant, the three ancient nations stood together with the Ancient Alliance led by Sikong Hao. This caused an uproar among the martialists. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling's slender, elegant figures standing outside the gate every day were already very eye-catching. Now, the three ancient nations and Sikong Hao actually said that they wanted to sully those two fairies. This naturally caused many people to sympathize with them. However, the rules of the Great Void were as such. Here, strength was everything. If one was strong, they could do whatever they wanted. If one was weak, even if one was the son of an ancient god, they would still be trampled underfoot. Some people chose to help by Yanran and Chu Ling, but they all looked like they were waiting to watch a good show. Only Di Fan, Fu Renjia, Wu Yu, and Ji Feng exploded with terrifying killing intent when they heard this. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling were so angry that their faces turned white. They had never experienced such humiliation in their lives. "I'll kill all of you bastards." Bai Shizhong was completely enraged. Training was secondary to his trip to the Great Void. The most important thing was to protect his sister. Du He was a crazy protector of his sister who was only slightly weaker than Yi Fei. Even Yi Fei had to worry about being killed when he approached Bai Yanran. Moreover, this group of people had slandered him in public. If he could tolerate this, he wouldn't be called Bai Shizhong. Follow everyone only saw a terrifying sword light flash out. Bai Shizhong was already stepping on divine inscriptions and charging towards the Crown Prince of Wu Kingdom. The Crown Prince of Wu Kingdom was instantly enraged. "It's the honor of a lifetime for you lowly women to be played by me. You dare to call us bastards?" You're courting death. Kill them all. Yes, kill them and take their opportunities. This is the result of going against us ancient nations. The crown prince of Yu Kingdom and the crown prince of Han Kingdom were both enraged. Following their orders, many warriors from the three great ancient nations roared and charged towards Bai Shizhong. However, before they could attack Bai Shizhong, a mighty purple aura suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. Di Fan walked over from the void like a saint. The powerful fist of a saint instantly blasted a warrior from an ancient nation into smithereens. There's actually an innate saint hidden in this group of people. Many warriors who were watching the battle were inexplicably shocked. One had to know that even in the heaven realm, a saint was also a legend. If it was said that a peerless genius could suppress an era, then an innate saint was born with the destiny of an era. They were born extraordinary and invincible. Emperor Di Fan's attack gave Si Konghao a shock. Then, he saw that after inheriting Di Fan's purple aura, another terrifying demonic dragon aura appeared between heaven and earth. That was Fu Renjia activating his demon-breeding heavenly fetus and turning into a huge demonic dragon. The dragon claws were awe-inspiring and carried a corrosive demonic dragon aura. Boom. Pay. Chapter 27-24. Black and White Dragon Snake. If they don't hand over the inheritance, we'll kill them all. The martial artists from the three ancient countries were not intimidated by Fu Renjia and Di Fan's strength. Instead, they tried to use their advantage in numbers to surround and kill Di Fan and Fu Renjia at the same time. Ji Feng's body emitted a terrifying madness and killing intent. Under his influence, the young men from the family Jiwang wanted to rush up and help. It was also considered as revenge for being forced by the three ancient countries. However, a cold voice stopped the young men from the family Jiwang. Ji Feng, I've heard of you. It said that you used to be a mad dog in the Scarlet Moon Divine Dynasty. You relied on the care of your ancient god grandfather to reach your current position. Unfortunately, a mad dog is a mad dog. In the eyes of the ancient families, you'll always be a dog. Si Konghao's tone was vicious, as if he was trying to provoke Ji Feng. The young men from the family Jiwang were all enraged by his words. Only Ji Feng did not show any anger on his face. Instead, he was filled with pride and confidence. That's right, I'm a mad dog. However, I'd rather be a free dog than be like you, kneeling on the ground and wagging your tails before Duan Mu Kai. Shut up. Today I, Si Konghao, will kill a mad dog like you. As if Ji Feng had poked at his sore spot, Si Konghao was furious, and his killing intent was as sharp as a blade as he charged towards Ji Feng. Ji Feng suddenly let out a long howl. A silver moon symbol appeared on his forehead. He was wearing a scarlet cloak, his claws were like hooks, and his eyes were cold. Suddenly, a ferocious and crazy aura filled the entire sky. This was Ji Feng, the mad dog who used to be in the life and death arena. Kill! Along with a crazy roar, Ji Feng had already engaged in a fierce battle with Si Konghao. Moreover, he used all of his strength to attack Si Konghao, completely abandoning all of his defenses. This crazy scene shocked many young experts in the crowd. Ji Feng's fighting style was not only crazy but also inexplicably pure. Boom! The celestial Dharch blood pool was seething with sanguine flames, but the one emitting the flames was not Yi Fei. It was the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle was sprawled in the blood pool, its black mouth open like a black hole. It was wantonly devouring and refining the celestial Dharch origins in the blood pool. Furthermore, as the celestial emperor's origin was refined, the divine lord aura on the dragon turtle's body became thicker and thicker. Even the tortoise's back began to show crisscrossing dragon patterns. Especially on the dragon turtle's head, there was a pair of crystal-clear dragon horns that were burning with a special vermilion bird flame. They were like two torches that lit up the sky. Xiao Chao's eyes sparkled as he felt that the dragon turtle was getting more and more beautiful. The golden vermilion bird howled in agony. Part of my soul crystal ended up benefiting this turtle, and it even turned this fatty's dragon flames into vermilion bird divine fire. One had to know that the dragon clan and the vermilion bird clan were different. The dragon clan's strength came from their physical body, while the vermilion bird's strength came from its divine fire. Therefore, ordinary dragon flames were incomparable to the vermilion bird's divine fire. However, as the dragon turtle had swallowed part of the vermilion bird's second soul crystal, the dragon flames had undergone a transformation and gradually evolved into the vermilion bird divine fire. How could the golden vermilion bird not be heartbroken? What was even more heartbreaking was that when it was depressed, there was a little girl who was slapping it around like a rubber ball. The golden vermilion bird felt like banging its head against the wall. What sin did I commit to meet this demon with a surname roar? The golden vermilion bird's complaints were endless. Suddenly, the entire celestial Dharch blood pool resounded with a strange sound that resembled a dragon's roar and a snake's hiss. That sound was ancient and furious, powerful and eerie. Just by hearing this voice, even the powerful ancient vermilion bird felt its heart skip a beat. Fear rose from the depths of its heart. Then, when it saw that the voice didn't come from anywhere else, but from Yi Fei's body, the golden vermilion bird widened its eyes in shock. What was it seeing? It actually saw a terrifying black snake moving the void and roaring at the nine heavens. It also saw the legendary holy dragon entangling with the terrifying snake. The boundless celestial Thearka's source energy turned into a terrifying dragon's repulse that crazily attacked the void giant snake. However, the enormous void serpent was too cunning and too difficult to kill. Sensing that something was amiss, the enormous void serpent suddenly dissipated and turned into a mysterious serpent silhouette that charged towards the holy dragon. No matter how furious the holy dragon was, in the end, it was only able to destroy a small portion of the serpent silhouettes. The majority of the serpent silhouettes turned back into the void and fused with the holy dragon. Finally, what appeared behind Yi Fei was a strange half-black, half-white dragon snake. It coiled around and formed a strange Taiji diagram behind Yi Fei. However, in the center of the diagram, the two black and white dots that represented the two extremes turned into a sacred dragon head and an evil snake head. That seems to be the legendary holy dragon spirit and the void snake spirit of the dragon clan. The most sacred and evil spirits in the world actually gathered in one body. What kind of freak is this kid? The golden vermilion bird raised its bare wings and wiped the sweat off its forehead. As the ancient emperor and a proud vermilion bird, even if the golden vermilion bird was forced to submit, it wouldn't think much of a small cultivator like Yi Fei. However, when it saw the half-black, half-white dragon snake phenomenon behind it, the golden vermilion bird felt an inexplicable instinctive fear of Yi Fei. This was a very strange and sullen feeling. The ancient Emperor Vermilion Bird was actually afraid of a divine Lord Jr. No one would believe it if it was told. Even Yi Fei himself didn't know that the bloodline phenomenon he revealed had already suppressed the arrogant golden vermilion bird. After withdrawing his bloodline, Yi Fei revealed a very unhappy expression. My cultivation is still too low. The Celestial Emperor's source energy I absorbed is very limited. This bit of source energy can only allow my bloodline to break through to the peak of the 11th grade. It's still a little bit away from the 12th grade. Yi Fei shook his head helplessly. The golden vermilion bird was speechless when heard this. It was about to habitually criticize Yi Fei when it recalled the terrifying bloodline phenomenon just now. The golden vermilion bird decided to obediently shut its beak and flew to Yi Fei's shoulder. Yi Fei felt that this was very strange. Senior Vermilion Bird, are you starting to doubt the life of a bird again? The Vermilion Bird clan was mostly arrogant and ruthless. This golden vermilion bird would only become so obedient when it couldn't take Xiao Chao's teasing anymore. Chapter 27-25. The golden vermilion bird's reminder made Yi Fei's expression turn serious. He could ignore other things, but he couldn't ignore the safety of his friends like Di Fan. Furthermore, He had to take revenge for the three princes of the ancient countries. Yi Fei immediately rose from the Heaven Emperor blood pool and bowed to the 12 mountains floating in the air. He then sprinted toward the light bridge not far away from the Heaven Emperor blood pool. The number of light bridges here was much fewer than before, but there were still more than 10 of them. The golden vermilion bird explained, "These light bridges are the different branches of the path of inheritance. Different light bridges can bring you to different trials. Little Yi, you must choose carefully according to your own characteristics and strengths." It was extremely humiliating to be slapped around by a little girl like a rubber ball. But between humiliation and its little life, the golden vermilion bird decisively chose the latter. However, this time around, Yi Fei didn't listen to it. Instead, he was extremely meticulous in his analysis of these light bridges. And as he expected, he indeed sensed a unique divine inscription imprint on one of the bridges. This kind of imprint could only be placed by someone who had a deep understanding of divine inscriptions. Coincidentally, the siblings by Shizhong and by Yanran were both extremely powerful grandmasters of spirit augmentation. There was an 80% chance that these imprints were placed by either by Shizhong or by Yanran. In other words, as long as he passed through this branching bridge, he would be able to meet by Shizhong and the others again. Yi Fei didn't hesitate and stepped onto the light bridge. His figure gradually disappeared. At the same time, the battle between the ancient alliance that Si Konghao belonged to and the family Jiwang that Ji Feng commanded was getting more and more intense. Especially Ji Feng. Due to the flaw in his bloodline, Ji Feng, who used the name Mad Dog, wasn't very talented and even had a flaw in his bloodline. If he wasn't careful, he would go completely crazy. Also, it wasn't until Ji Feng's grandfather returned as an ancient god that the family Jiwang knew that the Silver Moon bloodline wasn't a taboo of the ancient race, but a kind of strengthening of the ancient race's bloodline. After returning to the family Jiwang, Ji Feng received the greatest amount of training. His Silver Moon bloodline also shone brilliantly. Although he didn't reach the level of peerless geniuses, he was still able to fight Si Konghao to a draw, shocking many spectators. No, the most shocked ones were the princes of the three ancient countries. Wu, the crown prince of Wu country, personally fought with by Yanran. Although he relied on the advantage of being the crown prince of the ancient country to break by Shizhong's sword divine runes, at the crucial moment, Bai Yanran made a move. She also used the ghost god suppressing sky incantation that she had cultivated with great difficulty. The two siblings worked together to fight the crown prince of Wu country, and the crown prince of Wu country couldn't even fight back. Of course, the most eye-catching ones were Fu Renjia and Di Fan. These two geniuses from the Earth domain who had never shown their talents in the Heaven domain. After entering the ancient sect ruins and cultivating diligently, not only did their bloodline improve greatly, even their superpowers became more and more terrifying. Di Fan was born divine. Even if he didn't have anyone to guide him, as long as he had his own saint fate, Di Fan also had many fortuitous encounters. He even used 3 great void superpowers and defeated the crown prince of Yu country in front of everyone. This caused a sensation and curiosity among many people. They didn't understand why such a natural saint and the demonic youth who could transform into a demonic dragon would be with Yi Fei. It was actually Lu Mohan who issued the order to kill Yi Fei. It could be said that everyone knew about it. There were even rumors that Yi Fei had contradicted Zhang Wangu in front of everyone. Even Zhang Wangu said that the Rising Dragon sect had abandoned Yi Fei. Now the number of cultivators who entered through the light gate became fewer and fewer. There was still no sign of Yi Fei. Many people couldn't help but think that Yi Fei had most likely been plotted against by the crown princes of the 3 ancient countries and died at the checkpoint ahead. It's a pity that such a person could kill the deputy alliance leader of the Han Alliance. He must be someone with great talent. If he could endure for a period of time and give in to Lu Mohan, or give in and apologize to Zhang Wangu for the time being, perhaps he could grow rapidly on this trip to the Great Void. This is fate. Who told this person to not know what's good for him? He thought that he had some ability and when to provoke a peerless genius like Lu Mohan. Even if he dies, it's his own fault. It's a pity that those two delicate beauties were also implicated by this person. Once that group of youths is defeated, those two fairies' fates will definitely be miserable. On a hillside near the light gate, there were a few cultivators from small factions gathered together. They were drinking and chatting merrily as they recounted their recent experiences. Inevitably, their conversation was overheard by a black-robed youth who walked out of the light gate. On the youth's shoulder stood a listless little red bird. Its head was lowered, as if it was dozing off. It was only when it heard their conversation that it became alert. It opened its bare wings and was about to speak. The black-robed youth had already bent his finger and flicked the little red bird. The little red bird had already turned into a fiery light and burrowed into the black-robed youth's shoulder. The cultivators from the small factions were stunned. They did not know where the bird had been flicked to. Then, they saw the black-robed youth walk over with a very clean smile on his face. He asked, "Senior brothers, I'd like to ask you something. Of the two fairies that you mentioned, one is wearing white and the other is wearing red. The one in white looks very gentle, while the one in red has a fiery temper and likes to kick people. Brother, you also know? Could it be that you're a kindred spirit? But don't even think about it. Those two fairies have already been reserved as maidservants by the 3 crown princes of the ancient kingdoms. Also, Si Kong Hao of the Ancient Alliance has said that he will play with them in front of everyone. Perhaps it was because Yi Fei's smile was too simple and too infectious, but the youths from the small factions talked nonstop about the battles that had occurred over the past few days. The black-robed youth only found out now that the battle between the family Zhuang and the Ancient Alliance had already lasted for several days. During this time, the family Zhuang had been trying to break out of the encirclement, but they had been chased down by the Ancient Alliance and the 3 ancient kingdoms. I heard that one of them was unfortunately defeated yesterday and has already been captured by the Wu Kingdom's crown prince. The other party has also said that if the family Zhuang does not surrender, they will behead that person in front of everyone today. The youth from the small factions spoke of the latest news. Although they did not have the qualifications to watch the battle, they were constantly inquiring about the situation over there. Furthermore, the matter of the Ancient Alliance and the 3 ancient kingdoms targeting the family Zhuang made many cultivators realize that it was not enough to just rely on a few good friends to train together in the Great Void. If they wanted to live longer and not be bullied by those large factions, they had to band together and form various alliances. Chapter 27-26. Senior brothers, I appreciate your kind intentions, but I already have companions. I want to meet them now. The black-robed youth rejected politely. In that case, we won't force you. If there are any conflicts in the future, I hope that you can hold back. By the way, may I know your name? Yi Fei. After the black-robed youth finished speaking, he took large strides and rushed in a certain direction, leaving behind a few young Sir Gods from small factions who looked at each other. Yi Fei? Why does this name sound so familiar? Wait, Yi Fei. Boom. Rue. At the same time, a clap of thunder exploded above their heads. The few young divine monarchs looked at the disappearing black-robed figure with incomparable shock. Even if they were beaten to death, they would never have thought that not only did Yi Fei not fall under the plot of the 3 crown princes of the ancient kingdoms, he even managed to rush over in time to seek revenge from them. Only yes, on this path of inheritance where bloodlines, treasures, and Sky Emperor superpowers could not be used, could Yi Fei fight against the hundreds of people from the 3 ancient kingdoms and the Ancient Alliance by himself? These young Sir Gods could not help but have doubts in their hearts. But there was no use in having doubts. Yi Fei had already rushed in the direction of the 3 ancient kingdoms with rage. It was very easy to find them. He just had to let Xiao Chao sense where the spiritual energy fluctuation was the strongest. Yi Fei did not know that while he was on his way, Di Fan, Fu Renjia, Ji Feng, and the others had already been cornered by the 3 ancient nations and the Ancient Alliance. They had been cornered by the 3 ancient nations and the Ancient Alliance. Some of the youths from the family Zhuang were even seriously injured. However, The most unlucky one was Wu Yu. As he had mocked Si Konghao, Si Konghao had taken special care of him and ordered the people of the Ancient Alliance to capture him alive. However, Si Konghao didn't plan to kill Wu Yu just like that. Instead, he ordered his men to take Wu Yu to the foot of the mountain where Di Fan and the others were. Di Fan and the others' faces changed. Shu Ling's body was filled with anger. After all, she and Wu Yu were both in the Rising Dragon sect. Their relationship was the best. Wu Yu was captured because he was protecting her. Shu Ling felt very uncomfortable. No, I have to save Wu Yu. No, Shu Ling, you can't go down. Their goal is to force us down the mountain. We can't be fooled. By when they were on the mountain, Bai Yanran and Bai Shizhong were still able to calmly attach their spirit to the mountain peak and lay down a divine inscription grand formation. This was the reason why they were able to block the attacks of the three great ancient empires. However, the moment they were forced to leave the mountain, they would be in a completely passive position. Chu, although Ling lacked experience, she understood that what Bai Yanran said was the truth. Her expression immediately became dejected. It's all because of my lack of experience. I'll drag you guys down. Now that Wu Yu is captured, are we going to leave him to die? Of course we have to save him. However, we have fewer people compared to them. If we rush down rashly, not only will we not be able to save Wu Yu, we will also be trapped. However, we can quickly recover from our injuries. When our injuries are healed, we can go down and fight them to the death. The one who spoke was Fu Renjia. He had used the body of a devil dragon to fight. Although he had suffered dozens of injuries, his battle intent was still strong. Di Fan and Ji Feng were also heavily injured. However, it was because of their desperate battle that they were able to protect Bai Shizhong and his sister. They were able to find this mountain peak and lay down a divine inscription grand formation. This also bought them some time to save their lives. However, because of this, all of them were trapped here. Bai Shizhong couldn't help but sigh. If only Yi Fei was here. Although that guy's face is repulsive, I want to kill him every time I see him. However, when it comes to the heart of martial arts, we can't compare to him. Hearing this, Di Fan, Ji Feng, and Fu Renjia all fell silent. Shu Ling and Bai Yanran's eyes also became gloomy. After waiting for so long, there was still no news of Yi Fei. Could it be that Yi Fei really couldn't pass the test of the Golden Gate and had already died? At the foot of the mountain, after shouting for a long time, there was still no one coming down. Si Konghao's expression became increasingly ugly. This time, he targeted the family Zhuang not only because of his dissatisfaction with Ji Feng, but also because of Duanmu Kai's secret instructions. By it was Ji Feng's action to lead the family Zhuang to leave the Ancient Alliance. This action was very damaging to Duanmu Kai's reputation. If there was a chance, Duanmu Kai wouldn't mind killing Ji Feng as an example to others. But what Si Konghao hadn't expected was that there were actually two extremely powerful spiritual augmentation grandmasters in this group. Not only could they attach to the entire mountain, but they could also set up a divine rune killing formation in an extremely short time. As a result, the battle had entered stalemate. Even the threat of Wu Yu, who they had captured, couldn't lure them down the mountain. Si Konghao's expression instantly became incomparably ugly. The Crown Prince of Wu Country also said angrily, "Since this person is useless, we might as well just kill him." Wait, this person is not only Yi Fei's good friend, but he also killed many of our people when he broke out of the encirclement. Killing him like this will be letting him off too easily. I have a good idea. Who the Crown Prince of Yu Country walked towards Wu Yu and suddenly revealed a warm smile. Since you're also from one of the 9 great sects, this Crown Prince will give you a chance to live. If you're willing to crawl under my legs, this Crown Prince will spare your life. How about it? Wu Country, the eyes of the Crown Prince and the Crown Prince of the Han State lit up as they laughed in unison. I've long heard that Yimo once made a bet in the Xiannu sect. Whoever loses will crawl under the other party's feet. Now that Yimo is dead, he can't bear the humiliation of our feet, so let his friends bear it. It's the same. Loli Wu Yu, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and kneel down. Crawl under our feet. Remember, it's everyone. Ha 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 ha. Immediately, the warriors of the three great ancient countries and the ancient alliance laughed arrogantly. Although it was a pity that they couldn't personally kill Yi Fei, being able to let a disciple of the rising dragon sect suffer the humiliation of crawling under their legs was something they could brag about for the rest of their lives. On the mountain, Di Fan and the others who heard this all changed their expressions. Chu Ling looked worriedly at Wu Yu, who was at the foot of the mountain. Coincidentally, she saw that Wu Yu's face was bruised and swollen, but he still revealed his usual vulgar and despicable smile. Don't worry, although I, Wu Yu, am sometimes greedy for life and afraid of death, I can still distinguish right from wrong. I, Wu Yu, will never do two things in my life. The first is to betray my friends, and the second is to kneel and surrender. That is the humiliation of men, and also the humiliation of me. Wu Yu, kill. Although his cultivation had been sealed and his body was bruised, Wu Yu was filled with fighting spirit and killing intent. He directly charged towards the crown prince of Yu country, who wanted to humiliate him. For Zhou Yu's wild laughter came to an abrupt halt. Many people looked at Wu Yu in disbelief. Even Yu country's crown prince's face was filled with shock. Is it worth it to lose your life for an unrelated person? Chapter 27:27. Boom! Wu Yue kicked Yu country's crown prince's crotch. His movement was still obscene, but his aura was fundamentally different. Even Si Konghao was shocked. Then, he shook his head coldly. But unfortunately, it's still an egg against a rock. Bang! Wu Yue's foot kicked Yu country's crown prince, but he didn't move at all. His face was ferocious and cold. A lowly commoner dares to defy your superiors and go against this crown prince. How sad and laughable. Since you refuse to crawl under this crown prince's crotch, this crown prince will make you crawl under. Yu country's palm suddenly pressed down on Wu Yu's head, forcing him to kneel in front of him. However, Wu Yu didn't kneel. Instead, he roared angrily. He would rather break his own neck and commit suicide than endure such humiliation. At the same time, a mouthful of thick blood sprayed onto Yu country's crown prince's face like an arrow. This Yu country's crown prince, who had always been a bit of a clean freak, instantly flew into a rage. Not only did he kick Wu Yu until he vomited blood, but he also condensed a blood-colored spear out of thin air and pointed it at Wu Yu coldly. Say, Yi Fei is trash, a lowly commoner. Then obediently crawl under this crown prince's crotch. Otherwise, this crown prince won't kill you, but I'll kill this green dragon first. Roar! Roar! The green dragon roared as it was tied up by the Yu Nation's warriors with Xian energy and dragged up. When it saw Wu Yu vomiting blood, the green dragon instantly went berserk. However, just like Wu Yu, the green dragon's cultivation was also sealed. No matter how it struggled, it was unable to help Wu Yu. Then, a few swords stabbed into the little green dragon's body, causing it to cry out in pain. Enough! What's your goal? Why torture a young dragon? Mountain on the peak, Di Fan, Fu Renjia, Ji Feng, by Shizhong, by Yanran, Chu Ling, and all the other family Zhuang youths who could still move were completely enraged by Yu country's crown prince's vicious methods. They were so enraged that they gave up on trying to heal themselves and gave up on holding the fort. Instead, they unleashed their power and once again charged down the mountain. Everyone stop. Don't come down. If you come down, I'll die in front of you. Wu Yu, who had been kicked down, suddenly jumped up like a spring. He was full of bruises. Not only was his face swollen, even the corner of his mouth was bleeding. But only Wu Yu's eyes were filled with determination. He shouted loudly, I can die, but I can't let you die with me. Go back and recuperate. I, Wu Yue, believe that Yi Fei won't die so easily. He will definitely avenge me. Also, Yi Fei isn't trash. He's my brother. My brother is indomitable. Wu Yu's eyes turned red as he let out a roar. Suddenly, he pounced towards the ancient country warriors who were abusing his battle pets. This greatly shocked the crown princes of the three ancient countries. They felt that the rumored cowardly Wu Yue had gone completely insane. He actually said such words and did such a crazy thing. You always show off your courage in the heat of the moment. Forget it. Since you want to die, this crown prince will fulfill your wish. The crown prince of Yu country originally wanted to humiliate Wu Yu to anger Di Fan and the others so that they would go down the mountain to fight. However, Wu Yu's ignorance finally angered the crown prince of Yu country. The blood-colored spear in his hand was already emitting a divine light. He was about to nail Wu Yu to the ground. Wu Yu, Di Fan, Fu Renjia, and the others who were rushing down the mountain all had red eyes. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling also couldn't help but cry. Usually, Wu Yu gave them the impression that he was a little obscene and a little lecherous. But at this moment, Wu Yu was indomitable and full of the pride of a man. Unfortunately, they were too far away from Wu Yu. They could only watch as the crown prince of Yu country raised his blood-colored spear and stabbed out. Wu Yu's eyes couldn't help but flash with fear and reluctance. But in the end, it turned into pride. I, Wu Yu, never thought that I, Wu Yu, would have such a brave moment. Tell my brother that I didn't embarrass him. Boom. Ka! The blood-colored spear stabbed out, but it didn't hit Wu Yu. At the critical moment, the figure of a black-robed youth suddenly blocked in front of him. He even grabbed the head of the blood-colored spear with his bare hands. Wu Yu. Wu Yu's eyes widened in shock. Am I dead? But it's good that I'm dead. At least I can still see my brother. No, Wu Yu, you're not dead. With me here, no one can kill you. With one hand holding the blood-colored spear, Yi Fei's other hand suddenly condensed a sword finger. He fiercely pointed to the left. A destructive sword storm had already engulfed the heavens and earth. In an instant, all the ancient country warriors who were controlling the little green dragon were turned into a bloody mist, causing the surroundings to seem like it was raining blood. Only then did Wu Yu suddenly wake up. He shouted with incomparable excitement, Yi Fei, it's really you. I knew it wouldn't be easy for you. As the saying goes, good people don't live long, but disasters live for 1,000 years. Yi Fei's face darkened. Why did it feel like Wu Yu wasn't praising him, but scolding him? However, when he saw that Wu Yu's face was clearly bruised and swollen, and his eyes were almost unable to open, but seeing him appear safely and still able to smile so happily, Yi Fei couldn't help but flash through his heart. He was moved. Previously, you fought for me, but now, it's my turn to fight for you. Tell me, how do you want him to die? Yi Fei turned his head again and stared coldly at the three princes of the ancient countries. The faces of the crown prince of Yu, the crown prince of Wu, and the crown prince of Han immediately revealed extreme fear and disbelief. The one who had appeared was actually Yi Fei. How was this possible? Before they left, they had clearly seen Yi Fei being forced into the golden door. This was a golden door that only peerless geniuses could pass through. Yi Fei was clearly not a peerless genius, but not only did he have the courage to enter, he actually came out unscathed. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. It's fake. You must be fake. The crown prince of Yu couldn't bear it the most. His strongest attack had actually been caught by Yi Fei with his bare hands. The moment he reacted, the crown prince of Yu had already condensed more than a dozen blood-colored spears and furiously attacked Yi Fei. However, Yi Fei didn't even look at him. He only turned his head and looked at Wu Yu. Brother, how do you want him to die? Wu Yu narrowed his eyes and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. They want me to take your place and suffer the humiliation of being beneath you. Just now, they even wanted to use their spears to nail me and Xiaolong to death. I don't want anything else. I just want them to be like me. Chapter 27-28. What? Asking the crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms to kneel on the ground and wait for their deaths. Did they hear it wrong? Want. Over 100 young divine monarchs from the three ancient kingdoms were gathered here. Among them, the crown princes were the ancient kingdom's heaven's prides who had passed through the silver door. Even though not counting the ancient kingdoms, just the ancient alliance led by Si Konghao was already an incomparably powerful force. Now, Yifei was only one person. He actually said that he wanted the crown princes of the 3 ancient kingdoms to kneel on the ground. Ridiculous. Ignorant. Si Konghao's expression was cold. He looked down on Yifei. After all, he was the strongest heaven's pride of the Si Konghao clan. Apart from his bloodline, Si Konghao was not inferior to the 8 heavens' prides. He only lacked some luck. The 3 crown princes of the ancient kingdoms had the same thought as Si Konghao. When they heard Yifei's words, they were first frightened, then enraged. After the crown prince of the Moon Kingdom attacked, the crown prince of the Wu Kingdom and the crown prince of the Han Kingdom also attacked in anger. The crown prince of the Wu Kingdom mocked, "Yimo, there are so many of us. We aren't even afraid of a lone heaven's pride. Do you think we will be afraid of you? I don't need you to be afraid. I just need to return everything you did to my brother. Kill." The blood-colored spear in his hand suddenly collapsed. A layer of terrifying blood-colored sword light had already spread out from Yifei's body. This sword light was so terrifying that it had a peculiar rhythm and a terrifying killing intent. Boom! Most later, this sword light turned into a huge taiji sword diagram. It cut through the void and shattered the stars. The crown prince of the Moon Kingdom was shocked to see that all the blood-colored spears he had sent out were actually suppressed by the taiji sword diagram. Then, a deathly sword mountain condensed in the void and ruthlessly pressed down on him. Sword! The dark clouds of death suddenly appeared in his heart. The crown prince of Yu country suddenly let out a roar. A layer of moonlight actually appeared on his body in an attempt to block the terrifying sword light. However, the sword light was too terrifying. It was a sword of destruction and also a sword of calamity. With one sword, Yifei had already suppressed the crown prince of Yu country. The whistling sword mountain was like a mountain that pressed down on the crown prince of Yu country. The crown prince of Yu country could only let out a humiliated roar as he knelt down in front of Yifei with a plop. Only in just a single move, the dignified crown prince of an ancient country had been forced to his knees, unable to resist at all. The martial artists of the Moon Empire were in an uproar. The crown princes of the Wu Empire and Han Empire revealed deep fear in their eyes. Bloodline. You can actually use your bloodline. It had to be known that on this path of inheritance, one couldn't use their bloodline, treasures, or Heavenly Emperor's divine abilities unless they could find a way to undo the ancient god seal on their bodies on this path. The Crown Prince of Wu Empire and the Crown Prince of Han Empire never expected that they would force Yifei into the Golden Door to die. In the end, not only did they fail to kill Yifei, but they also allowed Yifei to successfully pass the trial of the Golden Door and undo the bloodline seal in his body. The Crown Prince of Yu country was so angry that he almost vomited blood. At this moment, he didn't even look at the life and death of the Crown Prince of Yu country. Facing Yifei, who had unsealed his bloodline, the 2 Crown Princes had already turned around and fled at their fastest speed. "You guys actually abandoned me." The Crown Prince of Yu country knelt on the ground alone. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. His heart was filled with rage and despair. But then he saw that Yifei, who had suppressed him, had no intention of killing him. Instead, the moment the 2 Crown Princes were about to escape, he had already activated his spatial divine ability. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the Crown Prince of Han Empire. Boom! Again, it was a sword mountain that rose from the ground. Yifei sent it smashing towards the Crown Prince of Han Empire. At the same time, Yifei's eyes flashed with a golden divine light. The sacred dragon's eyes space froze. At the same time, it attacked the Crown Prince of Han Empire. At the same time, it froze the fleeing Crown Prince of Wu Empire in the air. The Crown Prince of Wu Empire and the Crown Prince of Han Empire both revealed expressions of immense fear. "Save me. Si Konghao, save." "Shut up. I, Si Konghao, am not someone from your ancient empire. How can I be ordered around by you? Goodbye." Si Konghao's expression changed. Yifei's forceful suppression of the 3 Crown Princes had thoroughly frightened him. At this time, the instant the 3 Crown Princes were suppressed, Si Konghao had already fled. He didn't have the slightest intention of attacking. The martial artists of the three ancient empires were the same. When they discovered that not only had Yi Fei passed through the golden door, but he had also unsealed his bloodline, no one dared to attack Yi Fei. Instead, they all retreated, rapidly fleeing. This scene finally infuriated the Crown Prince of Wu Empire and the Crown Prince of Han Empire. They spat out mouthfuls of blood, their faces filled with despair. The Crown Prince of Yu Empire looked at Yi Fei with an incomparably fearful gaze. He begged, "Young Master Yi, spare me. I'm willing to hand over everything I have to apologize." "That's right, young Master Yi. We finally know that we were wrong. Opposing you was the Crown Prince of Wu Empire's idea. I beg you, spare me." The Crown Prince of Han Empire suddenly began to cry, hoping to use his own pitifulness to gain sympathy. Only the Crown Prince of Wu Empire was a bit more unyielding. He sneered and said, "Yimo, I admit that I underestimated you, but you shouldn't underestimate our three ancient empires. For this trip to the Great Void, our three ancient empires have all sent their ancient emperors. If you dare to kill us here, once you leave, you will have to bear, boom." Jun, the sword mountain that was pressing down on the Crown Prince of Wu Empire, suddenly fell and turned into a huge divine sword. The sword's blade directly nailed the Crown Prince of Wu Empire to the ground from head to toe. The Crown Prince of Han Empire and the Crown Prince of Yu Empire were also nailed to the ground. Even until their deaths, they did not dare to believe that Yi Fei would really dare to ignore the threat of the ancient empires and forcefully kill them. Furthermore, he used such a humiliating method. The ancient empires will not let you off. Wu Empire, the Crown Prince's eyes were filled with despair and malevolence. There was even a trace of regret. If he had not put on the airs of Crown Prince and threatened Yi Fei, and had instead lowered his head and begged for mercy, perhaps he would not have died like this. But the Crown Prince of Wu Empire did not know that even if he lowered his head and begged for mercy, Yi Fei would still not let them off. This was not Yi Fei being cold-blooded, but he could not forgive everything that the three crown princes of the ancient empires had done. In order to curry favor with Lu Mohan, they had chased him into the Golden Door. In order to seize the opportunity in the Great Void, they had chased after Di Fan and the others. What Yi Fei could not tolerate the most was that not only had they beaten up Wu Yu, but they had also humiliated Wu Yu. Of course, what Yi Fei was truly furious about was that the three crown princes of the ancient empires should not have had any designs on by Yan Ran and Chu Ling. If he had not come in time, not only would Wu Yu have died, but even by Yan Ran and Chu Ling would have been humiliated. Chapter 27-29. The crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms are dead. Furthermore, they were all killed by him in one move. Could it be that this guy has already transformed into a peerless genius? Not far from the mountain peak, a few young Sir Gods from small factions were clustered around. They were the ones who had given Yi Fei directions back then. When they saw that Yi Fei had dared to barge in here alone to save people, they were all worried for Yi Fei. They felt that Yi Fei's trip this time was no different from suicide. However, the outcome had shocked them. Yi Fei, who they thought was bound to die, had not only survived, but had also killed the three crown princes in front of everyone. He had even scared the deputy alliance leader of the Ancient Alliance into fleeing. This battle record was shocking. Even Di Fan and the others were shocked. Ji Feng couldn't help but ask, "Yi Fei, have you transformed into a peerless genius after entering the Golden Door?" "If I were a peerless genius, I wouldn't have let Si Konghao escape." Yi Fei smiled bitterly and shook his head. His eyes were filled with regret and coldness. Some of the family Zhuang youths who heard this were so frightened that their faces turned pale. Could it be that killing the crown princes of the three ancient kingdoms wasn't enough for you? You want to kill Si Konghao as well? Si Konghao not only targeted you, he even insulted you. Just based on this point alone, even if he was a peerless genius, I wouldn't mind sending him on his way if I had the chance, let alone the deputy alliance leader of the Ancient Alliance. Yi Fei's tone was cold. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling felt warmth in their hearts when they heard this. They knew that Yi Fei was so angry because of them. Bai Yanran's gaze softened again. Chu Ling, who had always been violent, looked at Yi Fei nervously. Yi Fei, your hand is injured. Although Yi Fei had caught the crown prince's blood-red spear with his bare hands, he still suffered some superficial wounds. Bai Yanran quickly took out a pill and forced it into Yi Fei's mouth without any explanation. Bai Shizhong, who was beside them, suddenly had the urge to raise his sword and slash someone. Wu Yue's eyes were red with envy. Cough. Wu Yu coughed with all his might. Miss Yanran, you can't favor one over the other. Yi Fei only suffered some superficial wounds, but I'm seriously injured and on the verge of death. I can't take it anymore. My heart hurts so much. If there isn't a beauty feeding me pills, I think I might die. Don't worry, you won't die. It's just pills. Don't worry, I have plenty of them. I'll feed you as much as you want. Bai Shizhong sneered and suddenly took out a bunch of pills. Without any explanation, he stuffed them into Wu Yue's mouth. Poor Wu Yue had just been seriously injured and did not have much resistance. His mouth was filled with the taste of pills. His heart was filled with grief and indignation. Why is it that Yi Fei has a beauty to care for him when he's injured, but I have to be humiliated and abused by a rough man when I'm injured? Wu Yue was very indignant. Listen, when they heard Wu Yue's words, other than Bai Yanran and Chu Ling, who blushed slightly and were a little embarrassed, everyone else felt a chill run down their spines. Especially Bai Shizhong, who was in the middle of humiliating. His hand trembled and the entire bottle of pills was stuffed into Wu Yue's mouth. Wu Yue almost choked to death on the spot. However, these pills were indeed useful. After swallowing them, not only did the superficial wounds on Yi Fei's hand heal, even Wu Yue's seriously injured body recovered rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Fei also returned to the mountain with Di Fan and the others, intending to make this place their temporary base for the time being. At the same time, he also told them about how he entered the golden door and unlocked the bloodline seal. When Di Fan heard this, he was very envious. I didn't expect to be able to unlock the bloodline seal after entering the golden door. Unfortunately, we've already missed this opportunity. Caw, it doesn't matter. Even if you miss it once, there's still a second time. You're a pretty good saint child. How about it? Are you interested in becoming the patriarch's disciple? Suddenly, on Yi Fei's shoulder, a small red bird with messy feathers came out. Its wings were bare and looked very strange. Most strange. What was strange was what the little red bird said. It actually wanted to accept Di Fan as its disciple. Hearing this, Di Fan's face darkened. No matter how difficult it was for him, it was impossible for him to accept such a bird as his master. Look, seeing the sudden appearance of the little red bird, Bai Yanran and Chu Ling were also very surprised. Yi Fei, isn't Blackie the one following you? Why did such a bird suddenly appear? And it's so ugly. Before they could finish speaking, the golden vermilion bird was already enraged. It spat fire from its beak and said, "You women have long hair and short eyes. And you too. All of you are simple-minded and ugly. Back in the days, I was also handsome and charming. If I didn't have 100,000 female birds, I would at least have 80,000. Before I get angry, if you all kneel down and apologize, I'll forgive you all." Di Fan's face darkened even more. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling's beautiful eyes were also filled with anger. This little red bird's mouth was really too vicious. Bai Shizhong had already raised his saber. Fu Renjie and Ji Feng's eyes were also filled with murderous intent. They couldn't wait to strangle this little red bird to death. However, before they could do anything, Lua, who was also ugly, had already volunteered to roll up his sleeves and stepped forward. "Don't do anything. I'm the best at dealing with this kind of little red bird that hasn't even grown up yet." "You bastard bird, eat your grandpa Wu's divine flicking finger." As he spoke, Wu Yue had already flicked his finger and it happened to hit between the little red bird's legs. Such a bloody and violent method almost made Di Fan and the others dumbfounded. Bai Yan ran, and Chu Ling's faces turned red, and they quickly turned around. Only the little red bird looked at Wu Yue dumbfoundedly, and then looked at the little red bird that had just been flicked. Then, a huge wave of anger exploded from the little red bird's body. Yifei's back was also covered in a layer of cold sweat. Only Wu Yue didn't feel it at all. He continued to lecture the little red bird. "What? You still dare to be unhappy? Looks like I didn't flick enough." Then, Wu Yue was about to flick his finger again. Seeing this, Yifei's whole body was covered in cold sweat. He hurriedly stopped him. "Wu Yue, stop flicking. Senior Vermilion Bird, don't take it to heart. My friend was just joking with you." "What? This is a vermilion bird? What realm is this bald bird at? Is it worthy of being called a senior?" Wu Yue faintly felt that something was wrong. Yifei looked at him with incomparable sympathy. He introduced, "This senior vermilion bird is a vermilion bird ancient emperor that I met in the Golden Gate." "Vermilion bird? Ancient emperor? Oh my god, I actually flicked the ancient emperors." "Shut up. Die for your ancestor." The golden vermilion bird had only been humiliated 3 times in its life. The first time was when it was suppressed in the great void and became an erased spirit. The second time was when it was caught by Xiao Chao and became a toy. The third time was when it was flicked by Wu Yue in a place that it shouldn't be flicked. Huge. Chapter 2730. Although the battle between Yi Fei and the 3 princes of the ancient kingdoms had attracted a lot of attention, it was just a small matter in this space. After all, there were too many experts who had passed the test of the Holy Regent's sects and entered this path of legacy. The 9 great sects, the 12 ancient clans, and the various ancient kingdoms, divine dynasties, sects, and academies had all sent their strongest geniuses here to train and cultivate. Be it the 3 ancient kingdoms or the ancient alliance, they're not the strongest here. The strongest here are the 9 great sects. Lu Yuhua from the Blazing Flame sect, Mu Shui from the Myriad Poison sect, and Lu Shanhua from the Heaven Cleaving sect. Currently, the training ground in this space has been jointly guarded by them, and no one is allowed to approach. On the top, after telling each other about their experiences, Di Fan also told Yi Fei about this space. Yi Fei then knew that Di Fan and the rest were trapped here because they were waiting for him, and because this path of legacy was jointly controlled by the Blazing Flame sect, the Myriad Poison sect, and the Heaven Cleaving sect. These 3 sects were all part of the 9 great sects, and were not something that an ordinary alliance or force could contend against. Therefore, when Lu Yuhua said that he wanted to control this path of legacy, no one dared to oppose him. They just went with the flow and silently agreed to this fact. No, Lu Yuhua did not dare to go too far and anger everyone. The condition he gave was that he would release the restrictions and gather everyone to open the bloody battlefield after he finished cultivating a remarkable ability. Listen, hearing this, Yi Fei frowned. "So you're saying that as long as Lu Yuhua doesn't finish cultivating the divine ability, we won't be able to start the trial and continue on this path of inheritance?" During the conversation just now, Yi Fei did not hide anything and directly told everyone about the Great Void Sky Emperor's legacy. Now that he heard that someone was actually blocking the entrance to the trial and not allowing anyone to participate in the trial, Yi Fei could not help but feel suspicious. No, even Di Fan and Fu Renjia had serious expressions on their faces. They said together, "Yi Fei, we feel that there's something wrong with Lu Yuhua's actions." That's right. Those who are able to enter this place are all sky prides of their respective regions. It's not difficult for them to cultivate a sacred art. Lu Yuhua has been here for at least 10 days. No matter how strong a great void sacred art is, he should have mastered it by now. However, he has been guarding the entrance and refused to open the blood-red battlefield. We suspect that he might be working with the other 2 parties to buy time, Ji Feng said in a deep voice. By those who had entered this place were all here for the various opportunities on the path of inheritance. The longer they stayed here, the lower their chances of obtaining any opportunities on the ancient path later on. When they were waiting for Yi Fei, they could still tolerate this situation. Now that Yi Fei had not only come out safely, but he had also unsealed his bloodline. There was nothing for them to be afraid of. The golden vermilion bird was even more daring. He said arrogantly, "A bunch of stupid birds. If they dare to block the way, just kill them. The old ancestor does not have the time to waste on a bunch of trash." After all, the golden vermilion bird was still in its spiritual form and did not feel safe. Especially after little birdie was flicked away by Wu Yu, the sense of danger in his heart became even stronger. At this moment, he could not wait for Yi Fei to finish this path of inheritance. Wu Yue looked at Yi Fei with a pitiful expression. His hair had already been made into a bird's nest by the golden vermilion bird. Compared to the golden vermilion bird, Wu Yu wanted to escape from this predicament even more. Zhu the vermilion bird's instigation and his intense curiosity about the great void sky emperor's inheritance finally made Yi Fei come to a decision. He immediately nodded and said, "All right, since no one objects, let's go over and give it a try." There were many opportunities in the great void. Not only was it a burial ground for elites, but it was also a stage for elites to rise. Just think about it. Yi Fei had only passed the path of blood refinement once. Not only had he obtained the life and death seal, but his bloodline had also broken through to the 11th level. If he continued to temper himself, Yi Fei believed that he would have a chance to unseal his bloodline once again and reach the 12th grade bloodline. That would be comparable to a peerless elite. At that time, even if I have to face Lu Mohan, I will have the foundation to contend with him. As he thought of this, Yi Fei saw a vast battlefield in the distance. It was like an inverted, blood-colored light barrier that covered a third of this space. Inside was the destination of this trial, the blood-red battlefield. However, at the entrance of the battlefield stood 3 groups of people. They were the young geniuses of the Blazing Flame sect, the Myriad Poison sect, and the Heaven-Cleaving sect. He was sitting cross-legged in front of the stone tablet that led to the battlefield. No one was allowed to come close. When Yi Fei came over, there were already many warriors gathered here. They were angry, but did not dare to say anything. "Yi Fei, this is the place. Do we really have to go over?" Bai Yanran and Chu Ling were a little nervous. They rarely participated in such battles. Bai Shizhong immediately stood beside Bai Yanran with a divine sword and said, "Sister, don't worry. I will kill anyone who dares to come close to you." Yi Fei and the others were speechless. The disciples of the 3 major sects who were guarding the stone tablets sneered and shouted coldly, "Who's making a ruckus here? Don't you know the rules here? If you want to enter the blood-colored battlefield, you can wait for our senior brother to finish cultivating his divine power. Then we will invite you in together." "Sorry, I don't have time to wait for you to finish cultivating your divine power. I only know that I want to go in now." Yi Fei took a step forward coldly. Since he knew that the 3 major sects were most likely stalling for time to pave the way for their respective peerless geniuses, Yi Fei naturally would not naively wait outside. While he took a step forward and walked towards the blood-colored battlefield. His action immediately caused an uproar among countless warriors. Then, someone quickly recognized Yi Fei and couldn't help but exclaim, "It's Yi Fei? This person is really a demon. I heard that he killed the crown princes of the 3 major ancient nations in public yesterday. He is so arrogant and despotic. Now, he actually came to provoke the 3 major sections. How arrogant! Yi Fei, is he the one who killed the deputy leader of the Han Alliance, Ouyang Changkong, and went against Lu Mohan? You are lucky that you're not dead. How dare you come here and go against the 3 major sects?" From a temporary stone house near the monument, a handsome youth in embroidered clothes suddenly walked out. He looked to be in his early 20s and was very young. However, his aura was much stronger than many of the young Sir Gods present who were in their 30s. However, the first thing that Yi Fei noticed was not the young man in embroidered clothes, but the 2 men behind the young man. One of the men had golden eyes, and his entire body was filled with terrifying oppression. The other man was as evil as a demon. Above his head, there was a terrifying demon cloud that was constantly whistling. "Nailan Shui Yao." Yi Fei was a little surprised. He He did not expect that these two people had also left the Crimson Moon Divine Dynasty and seemed to have joined the Blazing Fire sect and the Sky Cleaving sect respectively. Chapter 2731. When they saw Yi Fei, Zhan Feng, and Nailan Shui, Yao smiled coldly. In the Red Moon Holy Dynasty, they were absolute experts. They would never forget the humiliation of being defeated by Yi Fei in the land of the ancient god. This kind of humiliation made Zhan Feng and Nailan Shui Yao participate in the attack on Qingzhou. However, at that time, Yi Fei's target was Sir God Bai Yun. He did not have the time to kill the two of them. Unexpectedly, the two of them left the Red Moon Holy Dynasty and joined the Blazing Fire sect and the Sky Slashing sect respectively. Yi Fei was very surprised. Then, he noticed the young man in embroidered clothes standing in front of the two of them. "You are Lu Yuhua. How dare you call my brother's name directly? Get out of here. Remember, I am Lu Xiaohua." Lu Xiaohua was very dissatisfied with Yi Fei's misunderstanding. Although he was young, he had a competitive heart. Yi Fei did not want to talk to such a rebellious young man. Clothes? Liao. Pull out the bones and still be inseparable? Pull out the sleeves? Heart? E. Su. Su. E. 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 Respect me, and I will respect you tenfold. Yi Fei asked nicely, but Lu Xiaohua was rude. Of course, Yi Fei would not be polite. He, Di Fan, Ji Feng, and the others looked at each other. Then, they lifted their feet and walked toward the stone tablet of the bloody battlefield. Look! Many warriors who saw this scene were in an uproar. They did not expect that Yi Fei did not care about the three great sects after killing the crown princes of the three great ancient kingdoms. It should be known that these were the three great sects. Any disciple of the three great ancient kingdoms was much stronger than the warriors of the three great ancient kingdoms. How could Yi Fei, a mere few people, be able to shake him? Boom! Several when they heard Yi Fei's words. The martialists from the Ardent Flame sect, the Sky Cleaving sect, and the 10,000 Poison sect all sneered and stood up. Anyone who could enter the Great Void had to be an elite of the 9 great sects. Even though they had heard that Yi Fei had killed the crown prince of an ancient nation, they didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. On the contrary, an intense bloodline aura erupted from Lu Xiaohua's body. Yi Fei, I've heard of you. You're the new dark horse of the Rising Dragon sect. Unfortunately, a dark horse like you only knows how to bully those small ancient kingdoms. Iju Qian, Nazir, haggard oval waving letter to Kindleboom. Lu Xiaohua's bloodline completely erupted. The roaring flames were like torches that lit up the void. The nearby martial artists all revealed shocked and horrified expressions. What's going on? How did Lu Xiaohua unseal his bloodline? It's not just Lu Xiaohua. Zhan Feng and Nailan Shui Yao also have bloodline auras. Yi Fei's expression was serious. He had thought that would be easy for him to enter the bloody battlefield by relying on his bloodline. He didn't expect that not only would he meet his old enemy here, but he would also discover that many of the martialists from the 3 great sects had unsealed their bloodlines. How did they unseal their bloodlines? Could it be that all of them have passed through the Golden Door? Chu Ling was extremely shocked. Then, she shook her head. The Golden Door was a test specially prepared for the peerless geniuses. Those who weren't peerless geniuses would definitely die if they entered. If so many people had passed through the Golden Doors test at the same time, it would be too shocking. Staring at the stone tablet of the bloody battlefield, Di Fan's eyes narrowed slightly. He said coldly, "They're guarding this stone tablet so nervously. There's only one possibility. They've already entered the bloody battlefield and unsealed their bloodlines through some kind of opportunity." Boom! Di Fan. Fan's words caused an uproar among the martial artists who had heard the news. Only now did they realize that Lu Yuhua's words about cultivating divine powers were fake. She had secretly allowed the martial artists of the 3 great sects to enter the blood-red battlefield in advance to unlock their bloodlines. This was the real reason. After all, in this space, no one could use their bloodlines. Only the three great sects could. This gave them an absolute advantage. No one could compete with them. Very many of the martialists had angry expressions on their faces. Seeing that Yi Fei and the others had exposed their intentions and angered the crowd, Lu Xiaohua's face instantly became extremely gloomy. He nodded coldly and said, "Indeed, we've already entered the bloody battlefield in advance. However, that was because you were stupid and didn't have the courage to enter. Now, we've all unsealed our bloodlines, but you haven't. This is the absolute difference. As for you, Lu Xiaohua, will let you see this difference." A boiling killing intent suddenly appeared on Lu Xiaohua's body. It was directed directly at Yi Fei. Many people's expressions changed. In many people's eyes, Yi Fei was able to suppress the crown prince of an ancient country because of his bloodline. Now that Yi Fei's bloodline was no longer advantageous, would he be able to withstand Lu Xiaohua's attack? Interesting. It seems like Lu Xiaohua wants to use Yi Fei as a stepping stone to become famous. In the crowd, Si Konghao also revealed a gloating smile. He had even made up his mind to make a move at the crucial moment. But at this moment, Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao, who were standing behind, stepped forward at the same time. "Senior brother Lu, please wait. This Yi Fei is an old friend of ours. We want to send him on his way personally." Boom! Battle. Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao's bodies burned with a special bloodline divine flame at the same time. They stared coldly at Yi Fei. "Yi Fei, back in Qingzhou, you relied on the advantage of the ghostly deity Cauldron to force us away by luck. Today, we would like to see what other abilities you have to survive in our hands." Zhan Feng's body emitted a golden light. He activated the Battle King's decree, but it was no longer an immemorial mystique. It was a great void mystique. Its defensive power was no less than Yi Fei's ancient god-golden body. Obviously, after leaving the Crimson Moon Holy Court, Zhan Feng had also obtained a great opportunity. On the other side, Nalan Shui Yao's body was filled with demonic aura. It was as if an ancient demon had been revived. He had completely mastered the demon emperor scripture in the land of the ancient god. After joining the Sky Slayer sect, he had cultivated an even stronger ancient demon mystique. His demonic aura was even more terrifying. The demonic cloud above his head had turned into a terrifying void demonic beast, roaring loudly. Kill. Battle. Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao moved forward together and attacked Yi Fei. They wanted to wash away the humiliation of being forced away by Yi Fei in Qingzhou. They wanted to step on Yi Fei's corpse and make their names known in front of countless geniuses. Di Fan and the others' faces changed. After all, although Yi Fei's bloodline had been unsealed, Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao were not ordinary people. Not to mention, Lu Xiaohua was not far away and was eyeing them covetously. How could Yi Fei obtain victory in a situation where he was fighting against two opponents alone? Many warriors who were watching the battle were confused. Bai Yanran and Chu Ling held hands and looked at Yi Fei nervously. They did not know when, but their palms were sweating. However, in such a battle, they could not help at all since they had not unsealed their bloodline. They could only watch as Zhan Feng's golden light and Nalan Shui Yao's demonic aura quickly engulfed Yi Fei. Chapter 2732. Boom! Heaven! The ground collapsed, and the sword was like a star. Yet resplendent, divine sword light condensed in Yi Fei's hand. This sword light tore apart Zhan Feng's golden light and Nalan Shui Yao's demonic clouds. Yi Fei was fighting one against two, but he wasn't at a disadvantage at all. He was even blocking the attacks of Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao by himself. Lu Xiaohua, who was standing not far away, was shocked. His proud face couldn't help but turn serious. Could the rumors be true? Did this guy really pass through the golden door? So what if he passed through the golden door? Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao are geniuses that even the ancient emperor thinks highly of. Moreover, they still have the opportunities they obtained from the bloody battlefield. A heaven-cleaving sect disciple said confidently. While following his words, Zhang Feng, who was retreating again, suddenly emitted a terrifying aura. He was like a divine weapon that had awakened from a deep slumber. Yi Fei, you're our lifelong opponent, but you are a target that we must kill. The Crimson Moon Divine Dynasty can't accommodate too many geniuses. Zhang Feng and I are enough. Nailan Shui, Yao's body changed. At this moment, he actually turned into a real ancient demon. His eyes were as red as blood, and his killing intent soared to the sky. In the end, this killing intent formed a strange demonic aura, which caused Nailan Shui Yao's speed and strength to increase tremendously. Roar! Companion with a shocking roar, Nailan Shui Yao moved. He was like the emperor of the ancient demons. His afterimages covered the heavens and the earth as he charged towards Yi Fei. Invincible Battle King. Battle. Zhang Feng also roared. His body suddenly underwent a strange transformation. His left hand turned into a divine sword, his right hand into a divine saber, and his legs into a divine spear and a divine spear. His body turned into a divine armor and a divine shield. Even Zhang Feng's hair had become like steel needles, all of them standing up straight and flickering with terrifying lightning. This was Zhang Feng's harvest from his training in the heavenly realm. He had actually turned himself into a soldier. His entire body could become a divine weapon. He directly pierced through the void with a kick and shattered the sky with a punch. He took the lead to attack Yi Fei. Yet deep shock involuntarily flashed through Fei's heart. No wonder Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui would become friends. They were both people who would disregard the consequences in order to increase their strength. If it were me, I would definitely turn myself into this inhuman form in order to cultivate my mystique. Zhang Feng, Nailan Shui Yao, you've changed. You've lost yourself in power. In the past, I thought you were my opponents, but now I only feel that you're extremely pitiful. Yi Fei took a deep breath. As for Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui Yao, they both felt an indescribable pain in their hearts. However, this pain was quickly replaced by the pleasure of increasing their strength. Kill! The swords formed by Zhang Feng's hands pierced Yi Fei's body first. However, Yi Fei didn't even look at him. His ancient god golden body suddenly exploded like a blazing purple gold sun. Zhang Feng's swords couldn't hurt him at all. Death. Nailan Shui Yao, who had transformed into an ancient demon, swooped down. Her sharp claws were aimed at Yi Fei's head. However, Yi Fei didn't even look at her. He just stomped his feet on the ground. A gigantic Taiji sword diagram appeared under his feet, releasing dazzling sword light. The Taiji sword dance was suddenly activated. The whistling sword light formed a terrifying sword light pillar with the Taiji as the center. That light pillar carried a terrifying destructive aura. In an instant, the ancient demon that Nailan Shui Yao had transformed into was completely engulfed. Nailan Shui Yao. Bam! Zhang Feng let out a sorrowful roar. Even though he pursued strength and didn't care about the consequences, he and Nailan Shui Yao were close friends. Now that Nailan Shui Yao had been swallowed by the sword light, the immense pain caused Zhang Feng to break through some kind of limit. His blood started to burn crazily. At the same time, a special armor appeared on his body. Yi Fei, we must defeat you. We are the strongest geniuses of the Scarlet Moon Divine Dynasty. I will use my blood to summon the bronze armor. Boom, boom. Empty space, the space was shaking. However, when the bronze armor covered Zhang Feng's body, Zhang Feng's aura suddenly broke through some kind of limit. His fists, sabers, fists, and swords became more and more powerful. He actually smashed Yi Fei's ancient god golden body with one punch. At the same time, Nailan Shui Yao's ancient demon roar came from the sword light in the sky. The same bronze armor covered his body perfectly. Nailan Shui Yao's demonic aura became even more terrifying. He actually tore Yi Fei's Taiji sword diagram into pieces with one claw. While after that, Nailan Shui Yao and Zhang Feng once again charged towards Yi Fei. This sudden change was completely out of everyone's expectations. Only Liu Xiaohua and the disciples of the three major sects revealed complacent sneers on their faces. This set of bronze armor was their harvest from the bloody battlefield. Once they ignited their bloodline and activated the power of the armor, the power of their divine skills would immediately increase tremendously. Oh no, Yi Fei is in danger. At this moment, Bai Yanran and Chu Ling became anxious. Di Fan and the others even wanted to rush forward to help Yi Fei and stop Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao. Only the golden vermilion bird, who was sitting on Wu Yue's head, spread its wings and said, "Don't panic. It's just a bronze armor. At most, it can increase the power of your blood by 1 level. Little Yi can still withstand it. Blood, ignite for me." In the sky, Yi Fei let out a loud roar. Facing the bronze armor that Nalan Shui Yao and Zhan Feng had suddenly summoned, Yi Fei did not have the slightest intention of retreating. His body was already bursting with torch-like divine flames. His level 11 bloodline was completely ignited. Although Yi Fei did not have a bronze armor like Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao, which could increase the power of his bloodline, his divine flames were stronger than the two of them. After all, Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao's bloodline was only at level 10. Even if the bronze armor could increase their bloodline by 1 level, it could only increase their bloodline to level 10 or level 11 at most. While Yi Fei's bloodline, on the other hand, had already reached level 11 after the Celestial Emperor's Blood Pool's enhancement. The difference between 1 level and 1 grade was, of course, 1 grade. The greater the difference, the greater the enhancement to the power of martial arts and divine senses. At this moment, when Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao rushed up, Yi Fei's left hand formed a sword finger and displayed the Taiji Disaster Sword. His right hand formed a divine fist and displayed the Rising Dragon Fist. Under the enhancement of the power of the bloodline, these two great void divine skills erupted with the most terrifying power. In the sky, one could only see the bronze armor covered in blood. Zhan Feng's fist and sword were broken by Yi Fei on the spot. He flew out with blood dripping. Nalan Shui Yao's ancient demon body was pierced by Yi Fei's divine fist. She was forced to revert to her human form. Her face was pale and fearful. The disciples of the three sects were in an uproar. Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao joined forces and activated the bronze armor. In the end, not only did they not defeat Yi Fei, but they were also defeated by Yi Fei in 1 move. Shame. Chapter 2733. Golden Crow Bloodline, an 11th grade bloodline. We miscalculated. We worked so hard, but we still can't compare to you. There is nothing more humiliating than being unable to withstand a single blow from an old enemy. Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao. Their eyes were red, filled with humiliation, grief, and unwillingness. Zhan Feng pounded the ground with his fist. Nalan Shui screamed. They wanted to stand up and continue fighting, but before they could, a terrifying sword aura was already pressing down on their bodies. "You've lost," Yi Fei said coldly. "We won't lose. At least let us die in your hands." Zhan Feng was completely disheartened. He was once the strongest genius of the Battle King Palace, looking down on everyone else. Other than Feng Yun, he didn't put anyone else in his eyes. However, Yi Fei's appearance made Zhan Feng feel the despair of facing Feng Yun once again. He was angry, he struggled, but in the end, he fell in front of Yi Fei. Nalan Shui Yao's mood was roughly the same as Zhan Feng's. He only looked at Yi Fei with an expression as if he was facing death with equanimity. Yi Fei sighed. "Zhan Feng, Nalan Shui Yao, you have disappointed me too much. I used to treat you as rivals, as old enemies, but you have blindly lost yourselves in the pursuit of power. Do you know what is truly powerful about a warrior? It is the spirit. It's the eternal and indestructible martial heart in our hearts. As long as your martial heart is not firm, no matter how strong you are, you'll be unable to withstand a single blow from me." Yi Fei didn't pay attention to the two of them. He walked past them and continued to walk towards the blood-red battlefield. Only Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui Yao were left. They looked at Yi Fei's back in a daze. He didn't kill us? Why? Aren't we enemies? You two silly birds. Even your hearts of martial arts are shattered paper tigers. Not to mention Yi Fei disdaining to kill you. Even the old ancestor wouldn't bother to look at you. Trash. The golden vermilion bird stood proudly on its nest as it commented. Wu Yu's face was dark. He looked at Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui with pity and said, My brother's sword kills heroes, not incompetent people like you who don't even understand true strength. None of you are worthy of being Yi Fei's opponent, much less dying under Yi Fei's sword. Incompetent? We've worked so hard for so long, even turning our bodies into weapons and demon bodies. Could it be that we've really done wrong? Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui Yao were confused. It was fine that Yi Fei ignored them, but now even a bird and Wu Yu with a bird's nest were laughing at them. They couldn't help but have deep doubts about the path they were pursuing. However, there was one thing that Wu Yue had said that was very true. After discovering that Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui Yao were actually able to change their bodies at will in order to pursue power, Yi Fei no longer viewed them as opponents in his heart. After all, the opponents he pursued were true geniuses. They weren't like Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui Yao, who relied on changing their bodies to become stronger and stronger Xiexio. Therefore, after defeating the two of them, Yi Fei lost interest in killing them. The two of them, who had turned into Xiexio, were no longer a threat to him. Not only could Di Fan and the others easily surpass them, even Wu Yu could do the same. Through his conversation with the 8-armed demon dragon on the way, Yi Fei knew that the most important thing for a monarch god to break through to Rinzu was the martial heart. The strength of the martial heart was related to the strength of the Rinzu realm. For Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui Yao, who had lost their martial hearts, they might be able to obtain great power in the monarch god realm. However, the price they paid was that they couldn't break through to Rinzu. In the end, they were two pitiful creatures who had lost their way in power. Yi Fei decided to let them go out of sympathy. Moreover, there wasn't any grudge between them. Now, who else wants to stop me from entering the bloody battlefield? Yi Fei kept moving forward, approaching the disciples of the three big sections. Finally, his gaze fell on Lu Xiaohua. He was Lu Yuhua's younger brother and a powerful genius of the Blazing Fire sect. There were even rumors that Lu Xiaohua's talent was actually stronger than his brother Lu Yuhua's. They were known as the twin geniuses of the Blazing Fire sect. Even though he had seen Yi Fei defeat Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui Yao with his own eyes, Lu Xiaohua didn't show any fear. A cold smile even appeared on his face. Do you think that you can do whatever you want just because you've unsealed the 11th rank bloodline? Yi Fei, you're too naive. I, Lu Xiaohua, am not the same as the two trash you defeated. If you want to enter the bloody battlefield, there's only one way, and that is to kneel in front of me and beg me sincerely. Boom! Lu Xiaohua made his move. Just as Yi Fei defeated Zhang Feng and Nailan Shui Yao, he had already prepared dozens of flame-light pillars. Each of these flame pillars had enough power to burn through the void. The golden vermilion bird's face turned serious. Golden Crow bloodline. Little Yi, be careful. He has the 11th rank Golden Crow bloodline. He can control fire by nature. In this world, there were 3 types of strongest flames. One was the hell fire, the other was the vermilion bird fire, and the last was the Golden Crow fire. What Lu Xiaohua released now was his natal superpower, the Golden Crow fire. Moreover, this kind of flame could be combined with other martial arts to evolve into an extremely powerful Great Void superpower. The crowd only saw that the dozens of light pillars instantly surrounded the space where Yi Fei was. Suddenly, a terrifying giant flame was formed. It kept shrinking and pressing, as if it wanted to trap Yi Fei in the fireball and burn him alive. Some martial artists who recognized this superpower immediately exclaimed, "Oh no, that's the unique superpower of the Blazing Fire sect, the Golden Crow Devour. It can trap people in the fireball and swallow them alive." That's right. Then Yi Fei is in danger. Although he has the 11th rank bloodline, he revealed all his trump cards in the battle just now. As for how many great void superpowers Liu Xiaohua has, we don't know. Boom! Before he could finish his words, the rapidly spinning fireball suddenly split apart. Yi Fei's entire body was covered with sword light. He raised his hand, and a terrifying blood-colored greatsword appeared. It formed a Taiji diagram, and it blew apart the fireball that had surrounded him. He then slashed open a terrifying spatial rift in front of him. However, Liu Xiaohua laughed heartily. Foolish. Do you think that you could defeat me, Liu Xiaohua, with the same great void superpower that defeated those two trash? I already have a way to deal with your sword Dao superpower. With my bloodline, I will summon the flame, true body. Boom! Chapter 2734. Roar. The flaming giant let out an angry roar and opened its mouth wide. It had already swallowed Yi Fei's sword light. Its body swayed a little, and then it grew bigger and bigger. That's the unique Abhijna of the Blazing Fire sect, the Blazing Fire real body. I wonder how many Blazing Fire real bodies Liu Xiaohua has cultivated? A warrior recognized this Abhijna. This person's words shocked everyone. One flaming giant was already so terrifying. Could it be that Liu Xiaohua could conjure a second one? Roar! Roar! That person's judgment was proven right. After summoning the first flaming giant, a second flaming giant appeared behind Liu Xiaohua immediately. But its ability was different from the first one. The first flaming giant could swallow the opponent's Abhijna, but the second flaming giant had endless flame energy. This energy caused the flames around the giant to burn the void red the moment it appeared. It also made Yi Fei feel as if he had fallen into an endless sea of fire. But at this moment, Liu Xiaohua, who was hiding behind the flaming giant, moved again. His body was burning with flames. At this moment, another flaming giant appeared. This person had actually conjured 3 blazing fire real bodies. At the same time, each flaming giant seemed to have mastered a great void Abhijna. There were a total of 3 great void Abhijnas. They were extremely violent and came crashing down on Yi Fei. This is the price you have to pay for going against me. In the eyes of others, you are a dark horse that rose up in the great void. But in the eyes of me, Liu Xiaohua, you are just a stepping stone for me to become famous. Liu Xiaohua was in high spirits. Although summoning 3 blazing fire real bodies consumed a lot of his dark force, what he wanted was to use the most powerful and overwhelming method to kill Yi Fei. This was also to build his reputation. At this moment, Di Fan, Fu Renjia, and Ji Feng became nervous. They all felt the aura of death from this blazing fire real body. They could not block such an attack. Yi Fei, can you block it? Senior, why are you not attacking? At this time, Bai Yanran and Chu Ling were so nervous that crystal beads of sweat rolled down their faces. Indeed, these 3 flame giants gave them too much pressure. Even if their bloodline was restored, they didn't have the confidence to face them. Only the eyes of the golden vermilion bird gleamed as it stared at Yi Fei. However, Yi Fei didn't even turn his head as he faced Liu Xiaohua's 3-pronged attack head-on. Suddenly, the keening of a sword rang out in the air. That was the keening of a sword from Yi Fei's body. At this moment, Yi Fei's entire person transformed into a beam of sword light that shot up into the skies as he ferociously stomped out. Whoosh! The whistling sword light once again condensed into a Taiji symbol and slashed at the flame giant in the middle. At the same time, Yi Fei's hands roared continuously. The rising dragon fist had already evolved into 2 golden battle dragons that roared and tore through the sky. The 2 flame giants were immediately stopped by Yi Fei. However, a cold smile appeared on Liu Xiaohua's face. Now that both your hands and feet are bound, let's see how you block the attack of my last Inferno true body. Die! Liu Xiaohua seemed to have put all his focus into the 3rd flaming giant. Once again, he unleashed a flame-type Great Void, Ubijna, and blasted it towards Yifei. This made many martial artists who were watching the battle exclaim from the bottom of their hearts. It had to be said that Liu Xiaohua was indeed a prodigy among prodigies. He was only in his early 20s, but he was able to condense 3 true bodies of raging fire and unleash 3 different Great Void Ubijna. Such an achievement was rare even in the Blazing Flame sect. Yifei's expression was also slightly solemn. However, he still did not retreat. Instead, he roared angrily again. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and let out 9 ghostly roars. Following his roars, 9 heavenly cauldrons appeared behind him. They were arranged like 9 ancient stars and once again blocked the path of the 3rd flaming giant. Boom! The scene caused an uproar among the spectators. No one expected that after Yifei's strongest swordsmanship and rising dragon fist, he still had sufficient dark force to unleash a 3rd Great Void, Ubijna. This Yifei is actually tied with Liu Xiaohua, one of the 2 prodigies of the Blazing Flame sect. Many people couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Hearing this cry of alarm, Liu Xiaohua's handsome face revealed extreme anger and distortion. A draw? This is not what I want. What I want is to crush him. I want to step on his corpse and witness my glory. Yifei, 3 Great Void Ubijna is your limit, but not mine. Die. Boom. Heaven. A terrifying ball of fire appeared on the ground. That was Liu Xiaohua. He had once again activated his bloodline and unleashed his natural Ubijna, the devourer of the Golden Crow. This time, Liu Xiaohua was using his real body. The crowd was completely shocked. Who? They did not expect that Liu Xiaohua could use his real body to unleash a 4th Great Void, Ubijna, besides controlling 3 Blazing Flame real bodies to unleash Great Void Ubijna. The power of these 4 Ubijnas would be enough to severely injure a late Rinzhu expert. Perhaps only a quasi-emperor of the Rinzhu realm would be able to withstand it. At this moment, Yifei's arms and legs, including the 9 heavenly cauldrons, have been blocked. How can he withstand the attack of Liu Xiaohua's real body? There's no need to watch. This Yifei is 99% sure to be defeated. If he doesn't escape now, he might die here. Escape? Where can he escape to? This area is surrounded by the 3 major sections. Today, he will either die in battle or grow wings. Roar! All of a sudden, a horrifying dragon roar came from the sky. It was a black dragon turtle that was as large as a mountain. The black dragon turtle was burning with flames. It was not afraid of the fire giants at all. It collided with one of the giant fire giants. Is that Big Black? Bai Yinran and Chu Ling were in a daze. Di Fan and the others rubbed their eyes hard. They could not connect the domineering black dragon turtle with the lazy and gluttonous black dragon turtle. Little Emerald Dragon and Little Light Dragon were even more dumbfounded. They had always despised the black dragon turtle that only knew how to eat. However, at this moment, the black dragon turtle had suddenly become so ferocious. This was an inexplicable blow to the Emerald Dragon and Little Light Dragon. At the same time, the appearance of the black dragon turtle had caught Liu Xiaohua unprepared. He stared at the black dragon turtle as it knocked over one of his fire giants. Yifei, who had freed himself, seized the opportunity and quickly made a strange hand seal. That was the seal of life and death. There were 12 seals in total. However, as Yifei continued to make the seals, the seal of life and death appeared in the sky. Instantly, 12 different talismans of life and death flashed in the void. 6 of them shattered Liu Xiaohua's Golden Crow Devourer, while the remaining 6 slammed into Liu Xiaohua's body in one breath. Liu Xiaohua, if you want to use me as a stepping stone, go home and drink milk for a few more years. Boom, boom, boom. Chapter 2735. Yifei, you forced me to do this. Even if I have to pay the price, I will kill you. Liu Xiaohua's anger had reached the point of insanity. As one of the 2 prides of the Blazing Flame sect, He had an elder brother who was second only to a peerless heaven's pride as his backing. Liu Xiaohua's path of martial arts could be said to have been smooth sailing. He had never encountered any setbacks. If he wanted to step on someone, that person would definitely be stepped on by him, never to rise again. Liu Xiaohua had chosen to trample on Yi Fei because Yi Fei had been in the limelight recently. If he could trample on Yi Fei, he would definitely become famous in the Great Void. Even Liu Mohan could not deal with Yi Fei, but he, Liu Xiaohua, could casually trample him to death. This would not only increase his fame, but also indirectly slap Liu Mohan in the face. It would also be worth bragging about. But reality slapped Liu Xiaohua hard in the face. He had used all his means, but not only had he failed to trample Yi Fei to death, but he had also been trampled on by Yi Fei. He had been beaten into a sorry state and had lost all his face. How could Liu Xiaohua, who had never encountered any setbacks, endure this? Therefore, in order to avoid being beaten to a pulp by Yi Fei and losing all his face, Liu Xiaohua finally revealed his final trump card. All the blood in his body burned, but it was not to fight to the death with Yi Fei. Instead, he summoned a bronze battle suit and put it on his body. Furthermore, this battle suit exuded a stronger aura than Zhang Feng's and Nalan Shui's battle suits. Clang! The moment Liu Xiaohua put on this battle suit, it was as if he had been reborn. His supernatural powers became even more terrifying. Flames burned all over the sky. Behind him, the shadow of a golden crow spread its wings and swooped down with a roar. Yi Fei inexplicably felt a strong sense of danger at this moment. Without saying a word, he formed seals with one hand and then with both hands. The seal of life and death was completely unleashed by Yi Fei to the extreme. Countless seals filled with the terrifying aura of the cycle of life and death collided with the golden crow. The golden crow was forced back continuously, and it let out a wail of anger and grief. Clearly, in terms of mystiques, Yi Fei's seal of life and death was superior. After all, this seal was left behind by the Sky Emperor. Yi Fei even had a vague feeling that the complete seal of life and death might be a very powerful mystique of the Sky Emperor. Here, even if it was incomplete, when Yi Fei used his full power, it was not something that ordinary Taishu divine sense could withstand. But what surprised him was that even such a terrifying Madra only caused ripples when it hit Liu Xiaohua's bronze battle suit. It did not shatter his battle suit like Yi Fei did to Zhang Feng and Nalan Shui, Yao's battle suits. Why is it like this? They both have bronze battle suits, but why is Yi Fei able to shatter Zhang Feng and Nalan Shui Yao's, but not Liu Xiaohua's? Di Fan and the rest quickly realized that something was wrong and were very confused. Their gazes all looked at Wu Yu's head. At this moment, the golden vermilion bird's face was solemn. He explained in a low voice, "Those two silly birds should have obtained low-level bronze battle suits from the bloody battlefield. That's why Yi Fei was able to break through them. And the silly bird that fought Yi Fei should be wearing an even higher-level bronze battle suit. With Yi Fei's strength, it would be difficult for him to break through it. If that's the case, wouldn't it be difficult for Yi Fei to defeat Liu Xiaohua?" Di Fan and the rest's faces changed. After all, the difference between Yi Fei and Liu Xiaohua was not big. They both had rank 11 bloodline, and both had 4 great void superpowers. Even though Yi Fei's seal of life and death was more powerful, Liu Xiaohua had the bronze battle suit at this moment, which neutralized the threat of the seal of life and death. Most importantly, when they saw that Yi Fei was able to fight Liu Xiaohua to a standstill without the bronze battle suit, the disciples of the 3 major sects who were watching the battle nearby could no longer continue to watch the show. Immediately, the disciples of the 3 major sects who were more combative quickly rushed to the sky. They planned to join forces with Liu Xiaohua to besiege Yi Fei and continue to block the path of the martial artists outside to enter the bloody battlefield. Di Fan and the rest suddenly felt very heavy. They had not unsealed their bloodline. If they went forward now, they would not be of much help. Instead, they would be a burden to Yi Fei. However, if they did not go forward, Once Yi Fei was surrounded by the three major sects, no matter how strong he was, he would definitely fall in the end. Yi Fei will fall? Zhan asked. Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao looked at the disciples of the three major sects, who had rushed to the sky with complicated expressions. If they were not mistaken, no matter how strong Yi Fei was, he would not be a match for the joint forces of the three major sections. Especially now, Yi Fei was crazily entangled by Lu Xiaohua and could not get away. However, if he wants to win, there is another way, which is to capture Lu Xiaohua before he is besieged. However, this requires that he also has the bronze battle suit. Nalan Shui Yao seemed to have thought of something. She looked at Zhan Feng with complicated eyes and hesitated. Zhan Feng's eyes were filled with determination. He said in a deep voice, "Shui Yao, there is nothing to hesitate about. He let go of us. Although we will not be grateful to him, we still owe him our lives. I, Zhan Feng, hate to owe my enemies a favor. Yi Fei, I will return your favor to you now." Boom! Speak! While speaking, Zhan Feng suddenly crushed his bronze battle suit and turned it into a stream of light that rushed towards Yi Fei. Nalan Shui Yao was slightly stunned. She followed suit and turned her battle suit into a strange rune and threw it forward. Divine, something strange happened. The two runes began to merge in the air and became even stronger. They rushed to Yi Fei's side like lightning. "Yi Fei, we will return your favor to you. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. One day, we will find our own heart of martial arts and defeat you." After all this, Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao turned around and left at the same time. They did not even return to the Blazing Fire sect and the Heaven-Cleaving sect. This made the expressions of the disciples of the two sects change greatly. The corners of Yi Fei's mouth could not help but curl into a faint smile. Manifest, however, Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui Yao finally walked out of the confusion of power. Although they were not friends, they were still old friends from the Divine Land. Because of this, Yi Fei had let them go. They had also repaid him. Then, Yi Fei's consciousness entered the rune. At the same time, the blood in his body boiled and burned, enveloping the rune. Suddenly, a mysterious power was emitted from the rune and formed a special bronze battle suit that covered his body. The disciples of the three major sects were furious and frightened at the same time. Just Lu Xiaohua, who was attacking frantically, screamed and suddenly retreated desperately. He wanted to escape from Yi Fei's side. However, before he could retreat, Yi Fei, who was wearing the bronze battle suit, had already used a spatial mystique to freeze him in the air. At the same time, 12 life and death seals overlapped and blasted forward continuously. Entire, the void was filled with Lu Xiaohua's mournful and sullen screams. Yi Fei's life and death seals had not only shattered Lu Xiaohua's bronze battle suit, but also blasted him from the sky to the ground. Then a foot stepped on his face. Chapter 2736. On the bloody battlefield, Lu Xiaohua was so angry that he vomited blood. He had disregarded everything and activated the bronze armor. He had wanted to save face and kill Yi Fei, but Zhan Feng and Nalan Shui had suddenly betrayed him. He had been slapped once again. Yi Fei, who had the bronze armor, had not only surpassed Lu Xiaohua in terms of combat strength, but his strange eye of space had also frozen Lu Xiaohua in the air. He hadn't even had a chance to retaliate before he had been beaten up like a dead dog. His most handsome face had been stepped on in front of everyone. When all this happened, Lu Xiaohua was so angry that tears streamed down his cheeks. He just kept screaming, "Kill him! Kill him! What are you waiting for? Why aren't you attacking?" The disciples of the Blazing Flame sect were still hesitating, but the Heaven-Cleaving sect and the 10,000 Poisons sect seemed to be tempted. However, before they could be tempted, an intense sword whistle suddenly came from above and fiercely pierced into Lu Xiaohua's thigh. It directly nailed one of Lu Xiaohua's legs to the ground, unable to move. Lu Xiaohua, whose face was filled with resentment earlier, immediately closed his mouth in fright, especially when he felt a certain part of his thigh there was a chilly feeling. This feeling scared Lu Xiaohua so much that his scalp started to turn numb. His previously frenzied tone was now filled with anger and humiliation as he threatened, "Yi Fei, if you dare hurt me, my brother won't let you off. Do you think that your brother will let me off if I don't touch you? What a joke. From now on, if you dare say another word, I will castrate you on the spot." Yi Fei's tone was cold as another whistling sword light condensed in his palm. He shouted coldly, "I will count to 3. Immediately disperse your raging flame, true body, and get these people to scram to the side." Lu Xiaohua immediately shut his mouth. Although it was extremely humiliating to have his face trampled on like this, if he was castrated by Yi Fei in front of everyone, Lu Xiaohua would really have to find a rock and smash himself to death. Thus, in everyone's eyes, the usually arrogant Lu Xiaohua obediently dispersed his raging flame true body and avoided the dragon tortoise's crisis. At the same time, Lu Xiaohua shouted angrily at the disciples of the 3 sects, "All of you, step back. Don't attack." This time, the disciples of the intense flame sect decisively retreated. On the other hand, the disciples of the heaven-cleaving sect and the myriad poison sect hesitated when they heard this. Lu Xiaohua's handsome face revealed an incomparably great rage. "What are you all still standing there for? Hurry up and leave. Don't forget who my brother is." The expressions of the disciples of the heaven-cleaving sect and the 10,000 poisons sect changed. In the end, they retreated unwillingly. Just as the disciples of the 3 major sects retreated, there were already cultivators who impatiently rushed towards the stone tablet of the blood-colored battlefield. The expressions of the 3 major sects changed, but they did not continue to stop them. After all, Lu Xiaohua was still in Yi Fei's hands. If they made a move, there was a high chance they would kill Lu Xiaohua and incur Lu Yuhua's wrath. Yi Fei also looked at Lu Xiaohua in surprise and said, "I didn't expect your brother to have such high prestige in the 3 major sections." They actually took the initiative to move aside when they heard his name. "My brother is a powerhouse who is second only to exceptional geniuses. Yi Fei, if you don't want to die, let me go now. Otherwise, even if you enter the blood-colored battlefield, my brother won't let you off." Lu Xiaohua's eyes were filled with humiliation and anger. Although Yi Fei didn't step on his face, he still pressed him to the ground. This made Lu Xiaohua so angry that he nearly went berserk. Yi Fei's expression was cold as he lowered his head and glared at Lu Xiaohua. "Isn't this very humiliating? I remember you saying that I could only kneel before you. Now, I will return those words to you." Boom! Without giving Lu Xiaohua any time to react, Yi Fei suddenly slashed his sword at the bronze armor Lu Xiaohua was wearing. Without the support of the bloodline, the bronze armor instantly shattered into a ball of light. Then, the ball of light turned into a rune that floated in front of Yi Fei. Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly grabbed the rune and pressed it against his bronze armor. The rune and the bronze armor fused together. Yi Fei immediately felt that the bronze armor he was wearing had become even stronger. "I see. The runes on the bronze armor can absorb each other and transform to become even stronger. This is the secret of the blood-colored battlefield." Yi Fei had a flash of realization. Lu Xiaohua's face was filled with anger and sullenness. He had never imagined that Yi Fei would not only capture him, but also steal the bronze armor he had worked so hard to obtain. However, Yi Fei's sword light was aimed at his most important part, so Lu Xiaohua didn't dare say anything. Finally, he saw a thievish-looking black tortoise strip him of his space belt after Yi Fei had stolen his bronze armor. Puffed. Lu Xiaohua's immense anger and grievance finally made him so angry that he fainted on the spot. Little Emerald Dragon and Little Light Dragon also looked at the dragon tortoise in surprise. Yi Fei's face also turned slightly red. After all, only a thick-skinned dragon tortoise would do such a thing in public. However, Yi Fei still praised the dragon tortoise in his heart. Only then did he throw the unconscious Lu Xiaohua toward the 3 major sections. Then, he rushed toward the stone tablet of the blood-colored battlefield with Di Fan and the others. Entering the blood-red battlefield was very simple. You just had to place your hand on the stone tablet, and a cold stone would appear on the tablet. Using its gaze, you would be teleported to a strange space. This space was the blood-red battlefield. It was also the place where many geniuses fought and killed each other. Countless young geniuses from the heaven realm were buried here. At the same time, countless geniuses grew up here and eventually became influential figures in the heaven realm. When they entered, the golden vermilion bird's eyes turned serious. It warned in a deep voice, "Yi Fei, you juniors should be careful. This blood-color battlefield is connected to at least 4 or 5 light bridges. This means that you will not only meet people from the 3 major sects, but also people who are stronger than the 3 major sects." Then, old ancestor, what should we do? Wu Yu raised his head nervously and looked at the little red bird on his bird's nest. However, the little red bird sneered in response. "A bunch of stupid birds. Don't you see the bronze armor on Yi Fei? If I'm not wrong, this is a part of the Celestial Emperor's armor. As long as you can obtain this armor, you will be able to survive here. At the very least, you will be able to unseal your bloodline and leave the blood-colored battlefield." Chapter 2737. The blood-color battlefield was also very special. Yi Fei realized that it was the same as the Great Void. He couldn't use his divine sense and could only observe his surroundings with his naked eyes. If he wanted to gain the upper hand, he could only rely on Xiao Chao's divine eye of the heavens and earth. Xiao Chao waved his hand to show that he didn't want it. Xiao Chao looked very unhappy. After all, the dragon turtle was busy stabilizing his monarch god realm, and the golden vermilion bird was using the excuse of teaching Wu Yu a lesson to not return to the beastmark space. Xiao Chao felt that it was very boring. Yi Fei also understood. While the golden vermilion bird wasn't paying attention, he flicked his finger, and the golden vermilion bird turned into a streak of fire that flew uncontrollably into the beastmark space. The entire void was filled with the vermilion bird's angry roar. "Little demon with the surname Yi, I'm not done with you. Little ancestor, I was wrong," little Xiao Chao said. Chao was finally satisfied and used the little red bird as a ball. She pointed her small hand in a certain direction. Yi Fei didn't say anything and quickly rushed in that direction. Ji Feng and the others didn't know about the conversation between Yi Fei and Xiao Chao, but they didn't hesitate to follow. The group of people quickly ran across the blood-colored battlefield. Along Yi Fei also saw many traces of battle along the way. He couldn't help but feel a little more serious. "Everyone be careful. This blood-colored battlefield doesn't seem to be a good place. Yi Fei, look ahead. There seems to be a bronze palace. Fu Ringe's demonic dragons, I seem to be able to see even further." Suddenly, he pointed at a bronze building on a barren mountain with some surprise. It was a palace made entirely out of bronze, and its surface was covered with countless powerful divine runes. The moment they saw those divine runes, Bai Shizhong and his sister's eyes lit up. These are all divine runes with divine runes. If we can decipher them, it will be of great help to our divine rune martial Dao. Xiao Chao also glanced at the divine patterns curiously before shaking his head like an old man. He didn't forget to pat the golden vermilion bird again and again. A drop of fire condensed into a tear rolled down the golden vermilion bird's eyes. Staring at the bronze palace, Yi Fei's expression became more serious. It's very likely that Zhang Feng and the others obtained the bronze armor in this palace. Di Fan, let's go in first. The others will follow behind. After saying that, Yi Fei summoned his bronze armor and was about to open the bronze door when suddenly, Xiao Chao seemed to have sensed something and suddenly threw the golden vermilion bird out. The golden vermilion bird excitedly rushed out of the beastmark space and said, "Don't open it yet. Someone is like us and has their eyes on this palace." They are in that direction. The golden vermilion bird leaped onto Wu Yu's head once again and pointed its bald wings toward the left side of the group. With a whoosh, a blue-haired young divine, sovereign strode over from that side of the void with his head held high. It's an expert from the sea race. Jifeng's expression suddenly changed. The sea race is the largest branch of the ancient races, and they rule over many seas. They are even stronger than our family Jiwang. I was wondering who it was. So it's you from the family Jiwang. Since we are all from the ancient races, I won't make things difficult for you. Scram, I want this bronze palace. The sea race youth was very powerful. He was only one person, and he ignored everyone present. His gaze was fixed on the bronze palace, and he revealed a satisfied smile. It's troublesome to find these palaces without using my divine sense. However, I was lucky. Not only did I find a bronze palace, but I also found someone who obtained the bronze armor. Furthermore, the armor that this person is wearing seems to be a mid-tier armor. The sea race youth's gaze suddenly fell on Yi Fei. After all, the bronze armor that Yi Fei was wearing was too eye-catching. This was also an oversight on Yi Fei's part. He had just entered the blood-red battlefield and wasn't clear about the rules here. As for the sea race youth, he had been here for a long time and had directly revealed his intention to steal the battle robes. This time, not only did Ji Feng's expression change, but even Yi Fei's expression became slightly cold. He said in a low voice, "Could it be that we can snatch other people's bronze armor while on the bloody battlefield?" That's right. As long as you have the ability, you can snatch any bronze armor. Furthermore, the more bronze armor you snatch, the higher the grade of your own bronze armor, and the stronger the bloodline enhancement will be. Furthermore, when you snatch a certain amount of bronze armor, you will discover that your bloodline will transform. It's equivalent to having an extra grade of bloodline out of nowhere. The sea race youth's expression suddenly became somewhat fanatical. Upon hearing this, Yi Fei could not help but feel deeply shocked. The bronze armor seemed to be able to fuse infinitely and could even enhance the bloodline of a martialist by grade. Didn't this mean that if he obtained enough bronze armor, his bloodline would be enhanced from grade 11 to grade 12, reaching the level of a peerless genius? That's right. It was no wonder that the sea race youth wanted to snatch the bronze armor the moment they met. Ming, Yi Fei did not cower. Instead, a tyrannical battle intent suddenly appeared on his body. He looked coldly at the other party and said, "You want the bronze armor? Sure, but let's see if you have the ability to do so." Interesting. I have already given you face and asked you to scram. Since you refused to scram, then you can only die. Boom. Seeing that Yi Fei was unwilling to hand over the bronze armor, the sea race youth immediately attacked violently. A bright silver trident appeared in his hand, and with a roaring sound, it suddenly pierced towards Yi Fei's forehead. This scene made Chu Ling extremely puzzled. That's strange. Didn't they say that treasures are not allowed here? Stupid bird. In the land of inheritance, only treasures outside are not allowed. However, treasures obtained here are not restricted. The golden vermilion bird knocked on Chu Ling's head, completely ignoring the beautiful Chu Ling. This made Chu Ling extremely depressed. This reminder also made Yi Fei realize that this sea race youth was definitely an extraordinary member of the sea race. Otherwise, he would not have been able to obtain treasures in the land of the Great Void. His body instantly lit up with a bloody flame. He decided to go all out and fight this person. The sea race youth sneered disdainfully. A grade 11 bloodline. No wonder you have the confidence to fight with me. Unfortunately, I also have a grade 11 bloodline. Furthermore, my bronze armor will only be stronger than yours. Boom! Just as Yi Fei had planned, the sea race youth immediately used his full strength. At the same time, the bronze battle armor on his body began to burn with 10 different colored runes. In other words, this sea race youth had fused with a total of 10 bronze battle armors. Chapter 2738. 10 Runes. If one bronze armor increases one's bloodline by 1 level, then 10 bronze armor increases one's bloodline by 10 levels. That's equivalent to raising one's bloodline by 1 level. I said, Shizhong and his sister couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. This exclamation caused Yi Fei's expression to become extremely solemn. After all, this Sea Tribe youth was a powerful rank 11 prodigy. Now, with the enhancement of the bronze armor, his bloodline rank had increased to rank 12. His combat strength was comparable to that of a peerless prodigy. Here Yi Fei used the bronze armor with 4 runes to fight against an opponent with 10 runes. It was impossible for him to win. Moreover, there was a difference of 1 level between their bloodlines. Boom! Crack! Bang! In just one exchange, Yi Fei felt his own sword light being torn apart by the Sea Tribe youth's tyrannical trident. Fortunately, the life and death seal that he had hurriedly formed was barely able to resist the attack aimed at his forehead. The Sea Tribe youth's face was filled with astonishment. Then he sneered. I've heard about the seal of life and death from my elders. It said that it's one of the top 10 Great Void superpowers in the land of the Great Void. It can be upgraded to a Heavenly Emperor's superpower. I was going to kill you, but now I've changed my mind. Hand over the seal, and I'll spare your life. Boom! This time, the trident wasn't aimed at Yi Fei's forehead. Instead, it swept towards Yi Fei's arms and legs. Obviously, he wanted to break Yi Fei's limbs first before interrogating him. The Sea Tribe youth's arrogance finally angered Yi Fei. He didn't retreat. Instead, he suddenly unleashed his ancient god golden body. His feet kicked out, his left hand punched out, his right hand formed a seal, his mouth uttered the ghost god voice, and the universal cauldron floated on his back. Layers of superpowers gathered together and blasted towards the Sea Tribe youth. Di Fan, Ji Feng, and the others didn't stay idle. They saw how powerful the Sea Tribe youth was with the bronze armor. They knew that they couldn't defeat him one-on-one. Everyone suddenly soared into the air and charged towards the Sea Tribe youth. A bunch of ants who haven't even unsealed their bloodlines want to fight me? Are you kidding me? You'll never know how powerful the armor is before you put it on. Boom! Rumble. Waves surged into the sky, and killing intent boiled. The young man from the Sea Tribe ignored the attacks from Di Fan and the others. Even though most of the attacks that Di Fan and the others used were Great Void superpowers, they did not have any bloodline or treasures to boost their attacks. Their attacks could not even break through the defense of the bronze armor. They were all shaken by the waves of the void, causing them to vomit blood and fall from the void. Li Fei's mood also sank to the bottom of the valley. If they were outside, he could rely on the Heavenly Emperor's superpower, the Ghost Deity Cauldron, and the imperishable sword token to kill someone of a higher level. But here, with the bronze armor with 10 runes, the young man from the Sea Tribe was like a peerless genius. He was invincible and undefeatable. Even if Yi Fei used 4 Great Void superpowers in one go, he would still be able to kill Yi Fei. These superpowers were enough to kill the weaker Rinzu. But the young man from the Sea Tribe only activated his bloodline and ignited his armor. The powerful trident turned into a silver wave and destroyed all of his superpowers. Puff! Puff! Then, the trident's blade radiance shattered Yi Fei's ancient god golden body and cut a long bloody wound on his chest. But at the critical moment, Yi Fei used space diversion to dodge the attack and avoid being stabbed by the trident. The young man from the Sea Tribe was even more surprised. You actually have space superpowers. I have to say that you are really strong. But it's a pity that you entered the bloody battlefield too late. You are too weak. I'll send you to hell with the last trident. Sea King Slash. Boom. See, the waves roared and pushed toward Yi Fei like a wall of blades. It was as if he had fallen into the vast sea and was undefeatable. Di Fan and the others who fell from the void were shocked and confused. Wu Yu roared, Yi Fei, don't worry about us. Leave now. Leave my ass. If he leaves, the Patriarch will die here. Yi Fei, where's your other space superpowers? Use it and kill him. The golden vermilion bird also showed a rare look of fear. She hurriedly reminded Yi Fei. Leaf Yi Fei smiled bitterly and shook his head. The space eye can only be used once a day. I've already used it against Lu Xiaohua. That's because you're not strong enough. The Patriarch has chosen to follow you. I've suffered a great loss. Open your mind and let the Patriarch possess you. Scum. The golden vermilion bird's little red bird suddenly became huge and swallowed Yi Fei like a fire beast. However, Yi Fei did not stop it. After all, the golden vermilion bird's soul crystal was still in his hands. If the golden vermilion bird wanted to harm him, he would die in a matter of minutes. Therefore, Yi Fei decisively opened his mind and allowed the golden vermilion bird to possess him. Then he felt a huge change in his body. He turned into a ferocious golden vermilion bird in the void. Incomparable hostility and killing intent emerged from his vermilion bird's body. It made Yi Fei feel as if he had really turned into a vermilion bird. The moment the sacred dragon's eye in his body sensed this power, it suddenly erupted with a terrifying sacred dragon light. This light suppressed the void serpent spirit until it began to tremble. It cursed in its heart. The birth of other void serpent spirits had been smooth and joyful. They could easily control their host. Only the golden vermilion bird was born in Yi Fei's bloodline. It had been plagued with misfortune and was extremely unlucky. First, it was suppressed by the sacred dragon. Now, even a vermilion bird's remnant spirit came to bully it. Roar! Indignation, the void serpent had nowhere to vent its anger, so it purposely lent a portion of its power into Yi Fei's body. In the void, Yi Fei's vermilion bird form had also undergone an obvious change. One of his eyes was filled with an intense holy light, while the other one was filled with a terrifying evil light. The moment the holy light and evil light intersected, Yi Fei's eyes were filled with a terrifying evil light. Yi Fei's eyes not only froze space, but also shattered it. Shocking spatial fluctuations erupted. The sea race youth, who was in the middle of attacking, suddenly felt his body freeze. The shattering power of space caused his bronze armor to creak as it withstood the immense pressure of the void. The sea race youth's face was filled with shock. What kind of evil technique are you using? What did you do to me? Bloodline erupt. Boom. Armor. The sea race youth was really terrifying after wearing the 10-rune bronze armor. Even though Yi Fei had fused the sacred dragon, the vermilion bird, and the void snake spirit, he couldn't completely defeat this youth. He could only injure him. Following. Chapter 2739. Let's go. Although it was a pity to give up on this bronze palace, this was the rule of the path of inheritance. The blood-red battlefield was the world of battlesuits. The Sea Tribe youth who had fused with 10 pieces of bronze battlesuits was a different kind of peerless prodigy. Unless Yi Fei also had such a bronze battlesuit, he could only use the eyes of space to temporarily trap the Sea Tribe youth. There was no way he could win. Understanding this, D-Fan and the rest were unwilling to give up. However, they also knew that without unsealing their bloodlines, they could not help Yi Fei. They might even become the target of the Sea Tribe youth. Therefore, the only thing they could do was to quickly retreat while Yi Fei trapped the Sea Tribe youth. They could also take the opportunity to leave this dangerous bronze palace. Squeak, squeak, squeak. However, before they could really leave, Xiao Chao suddenly cried out nervously in the beastmark space. The dragon turtle, who was cultivating, also raised its head alertly. It looked toward a certain void. It saw a powerful white-robed youth walking towards it. He looked at Yi Fei, who had transformed into the vermilion bird, in surprise. However, in the end, he looked past Yi Fei and stared at the Sea Tribe youth, who was still struggling in the stagnant space. Your battlesuit is not bad. Wearing it can actually allow you to unleash the power of a peerless prodigy. Unfortunately, you're not a true peerless prodigy. I want this battlesuit. Scram, who do you think you are? I have always been the one who snatches from others. How dare you snatch from me? Just you wait. After I kill that demon, I will deal with you. Boom! Perhaps the appearance of the white-robed youth made the Sea Tribe youth feel some kind of pressure. He completely exploded and finally broke free from the influence of Yi Fei's eyes of space. No, Yi Fei was not discouraged. After all, he had used the eyes of space to buy enough time. D-Fan and the rest had also retreated to a safe place. The sudden appearance of the white-robed youth also gave Yi Fei a chance to leave. Hui flapped his giant vermilion bird fire wings and turned to flee into the distance. Behind him, the sea race youth roared in anger, but he wasn't able to catch up to Yi Fei. And on this bloody battlefield, every martial artist was a hunter, but they were also prey. Just now, this sea race youth had treated Yi Fei as prey. Now, this white-clothed youth had also treated this sea race youth as prey. A purple flute appeared in the hands of the white-clothed youth. With just a gentle blow, a layer of terrifying spatial ripples appeared between the heavens and the earth. That was the sound of the flute created by the white-clothed youth, forming invisible sound waves. This sound wave was extremely terrifying. With the white-clothed youth as the center, it spread out in all directions. Whether it was the Sea Tribe youth or Yi Fei, they were instantly enveloped by this formless sound wave. Yi Fei's expression changed instantly. Almost at the same time as the sound wave appeared, he had already used the eyes of space to freeze space and forcefully stop the sound wave that was nearing him. At the same time, he had already used spatial manipulation to quickly escape from the area affected by the flute sound. This surprised the white-clothed youth once again. However, he didn't continue to target Yi Fei. After all, his target was still the sea race youth. So in the air, the flute sound became more and more drawn out. The range and intensity of the sound wave continued to expand. Even though the sea race youth, who had fused with many battle suits, had long possessed battle prowess comparable to that of a legendary prodigy, he was still unable to escape from the influence of the white-clothed youth's flute sound. Yi Fei couldn't help but be shocked. This was because the white-clothed youth didn't have any bloodline enhancement from the battle suit. He was fighting the sea race youth with his own strength. While there was only one possibility on the bloody battlefield to be able to do this, this person is a legendary prodigy. I just don't know which one of the 8 he is. Yi Fei quickly returned to the side of Di Fan and the others. The golden vermilion bird also hurriedly removed its possession of Yi Fei and turned back into the little red bird before flying back to the bird's nest above Wu Yu's head. Wu Yu's expression was dark. However, when he saw that Yi Fei didn't even recognize the white-clothed youth, Wu Yu exclaimed in an exaggerated manner, "Yi Fei, don't tell me you don't even know who that white-clothed youth is? Is it strange that we don't know either?" Chu Ling placed her hands on her hips and pulled Bai Yanran back as she glared at Wu Yu. Wu Yu quickly put on a bitter face and sighed. "You can only say this to me. If Chun Xiaoyao supporters find out, they will beat you to death." Hearing Wu Yu's words, Ji Feng suddenly reacted and said in a deep voice, "Wu Yu, what did you say?" This person is the legendary genius who is said to be free and unfettered, able to break the sky with his flute? That's right, it's him. Chun Xiaoyao is a legendary prodigy of the Walkabout sect. The Walkabout sect is extremely strict when it comes to accepting disciples. Not only is there a high requirement for martial talent, but there are also high requirements for poetry, singing, music, painting, and chess. It can be said that anyone who can join the Walkabout sect is a genius of a generation. The most outstanding disciple of this generation of the Footloose sect was none other than Chun Xiaoyao. It is said that his flute music once shook the 9 heavens. Rumble. Following Wu Yu's explanation, the terrifying sound of a tsunami suddenly filled the air. It was the sea race youth who was roaring furiously. "Xiaoyao, I'm not afraid of you. Now that I have battle robes, I'm comparable to you legendary prodigies. Do you really want to fight me?" "Fight!" The white-robed Xiaoyao coldly spat out this word. Then he raised his flute and pointed it at the void. Thousands of cracks appeared in the void, densely packed like a spiderweb. They enveloped the sea race youth, not only shattering the tsunami that filled the sky, but also trapping him in the void. Chun Xiaoyao, who had done all this, didn't even use the power of his battle robes. He only relied on the flute in his hand to easily suppress the sea race youth. This is a true, legendary prodigy. Compared to them, the difference between us is still too great. Di Fan and Fu Renjia took in deep breaths of cold air. Yifei's expression was also grave. He had originally thought that Lu Mohan, who he had faced before, represented the pinnacle of legendary prodigies. But now, it seemed that legendary prodigies were also divided into strong and weak. And this Qin Xiaoyao was undoubtedly stronger than Lu Mohan, and also more carefree. His flute music shook the 9 heavens. This Qin Xiaoyao is fully deserving of this title. However, we don't need to belittle ourselves. This path of inheritance is a test left behind by the Sky Emperor. As long as we reach the end, anything is possible. After personally witnessing how powerful legendary prodigies were, Yi Fei didn't lose heart. In his heart, there was only a stronger fighting spirit and a firmer martial heart. Boom! Yi Fei. Chapter 2740. Qin Xiaoyao's eyes were looking over from far away. Everyone could clearly feel his gaze. He stared at Yi Fei, and then at the little red bird on Wu Yue's head. He seemed a bit shocked, a bit surprised. But this gaze made Di Fan and the others nervous. Yi Fei also had a bronze battle suit. If Qin Xiaoyao were to snatch it, they might not be his match even if they worked together. Only Yi Fei looked at Qin Xiaoyao and smiled. That smile was simple and bright. It made people think that Yi Fei was an honest person who could be bullied easily. Qin Xiaoyao's expression was a little strange. Then, he smiled and stopped looking at Yi Fei. He waved his hand and snatched the bronze battle suit from the Sea Tribe youth. Same as at the same time, a bronze battle suit appeared on Qin Xiaoyao's body. It was on par with the Sea Tribe youth's battle suit. They both had 10 runes. The Sea Tribe youth was still angry when his battle suit was snatched away. But now he was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Yi Fei's heart trembled. If Qin Xiaoyao had been wearing the battle suit, he might not have been Qin Xiaoyao's match, even if he joined forces with the Sea Tribe youth. Boom! After snatching the bronze battle suit, Qin Xiaoyao didn't care about anyone else. He merged the 2 battle suits together. However, the bronze battle suit shone with a silver light. Green, the bronze battle suit turned into a silver battle suit. Qin Xiaoyao looked even more outstanding and was filled with a strong pressure. Then he soared into the sky. He didn't target Yi Fei, nor did he continue to chase after the Sea Tribe youth who had lost his battle suit. He just stepped into the air and left. The sound of the flute was leisurely. Yet a strange expression appeared on Fei's face. There's a silver battle suit above the bronze battle suit. If that's the case, why didn't Qin Xiaoyao snatch my battle suit and enter the bronze palace? Stupid bird, you didn't even understand such a simple rule. You could transform 20 bronze battle suits into silver battle suits by merging them together. If Qin Xiaoyao wants to continue upgrading his battle suit, he's not competing for the bronze battle suit anymore, but the silver battle suit. The golden vermilion bird finally seized the opportunity to take revenge on Yi Fei. It swung its wing at Yi Fei's head before hurriedly returning to its nest on Wu Yue's head. Yi Fei and Wu Yu's faces darkened. However, they heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. It's best that Qin Xiaoyao doesn't attack us. Otherwise, I really don't have the confidence to fight against a peerless genius like Qin Xiaoyao. Alright, since Qin Xiaoyao has left, doesn't that mean we still have a chance to fight for the Bronze Palace? Suddenly, Fu Renjia's eyes lit up. Listen as he spoke. Yi Fei revealed a simple and honest smile once more. But he wasn't looking at the Bronze Palace. Instead, he was looking at the severely injured sea race youth that Qin Xiaoyao had blasted out of the sky. Sometimes, when immortals fought, not only would mortals suffer, they might even have the opportunity to take advantage of the situation. Di Fan, Brother Ji Feng, say, before we enter the Bronze Palace, should we kill someone and rob them? Yi Fei said calmly. Di Fan and the others couldn't help but have strange expressions when they heard this. Chu Ling and Bai Yan Ran, on the other hand, were excited. They had heard of robbing before, but they had never done it before. I'm so excited. Chu Ling clenched her fists tightly. The sea race youth's forehead was covered in cold sweat when he heard this. He could only cry and beg. Senior brothers, let's talk this out. We're all ancient clans. Why must we kill each other? Let me go, and I'll leave now." As he spoke, the sea race youth crawled up in fear and turned around to flee. Yifei secretly shook his head. When this person was wearing the armor, he was arrogant and arrogant. Now that he didn't have the armor, he immediately showed his true colors. It was obvious that he was the kind of person who bullied the weak and feared the strong. In addition, this person was seriously injured. Yifei didn't even need to do anything. Di Fan, Fu Renjia, Ji Feng, and the others had already surrounded the sea race youth and beat him up. They were also venting their hatred for being bullied by the sea race youth. Wu Yu's eyes were sharp. He wanted to take advantage of the chaos to snatch the sea race youth's space belt. However, before Wu Yu could do anything, a big black mouth suddenly squeezed in from the side. It bit the space belt and retracted. Everyone was stunned. Yifei praised in his heart, Big Black's ability to bite people is getting better. Even I didn't notice when Big Black ran out of the beast mark space and squeezed into the crowd. Roar! Roar! The dragon turtle held the space belt in its mouth and returned to the beast mark space proudly. Only the sea race youth was left. Di Fan and the others were even more depressed. They could only look at the bronze palace. Di Fan asked the sea race youth, "How can we enter this bronze palace?" The sea race youth's face was bruised and swollen. He said with a sad face, "Every bronze palace is protected by a very powerful formation. Moreover, different palaces have different formations. Only by breaking the formation can we enter. However, that takes a very long time. Therefore, I always wait for others to break the formation before launching a sneak attack." The sea race youth's words attracted a lot of disdainful looks. Bai Shizhong and Bai Yanran walked towards the bronze palace. After checking it, they said in a serious tone, "The spiritual adhesion of this palace is very high. It will take at least 3 to 5 days to break the formation. That's too long. We entered the bloody battlefield too late. If we continue to waste time, the strong will only become stronger and the weak will become weaker." Yifei decisively shook his head. He had seen with his own eyes the transformation of this ordinary sea race youth after putting on the battle armor. Yifei's heart was already filled with a competitive spirit. He naturally wouldn't waste any more time here. "Xiao Qiao, it's up to you now." As he spoke, Yifei threw the golden vermilion bird back into the beast mark space. Xiao Qiao immediately beamed with joy. He swept his divine eyes of heaven and earth in front of him. Soon, Xiao Qiao found the way to break the formation. He grabbed the golden vermilion bird with one hand and pointed in a certain direction with the other. Yifei had already used the seal of life and death to attack the bronze palace's defensive formation. The entire palace shook violently. The spiritual adhesion formation, which was extremely difficult to break in the eyes of Bai Shizhong and Bai Yanran, was broken in one move by Yifei. How could I forget that Yifei is an even more powerful spiritual adhesion grandmaster than us? Bai Yanran's greatest hobby was studying the divine spiritual adhesion runes. When she saw Yifei's exquisite method of breaking the formation, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but light up. Bai Shizhong couldn't help but feel distressed. He hurriedly blocked his sister's line of sight, as if he was afraid that Yifei would provoke his sister. Yifei was speechless on the spot. He took the lead and walked into the bronze palace. Chapter 2741. Another ray of divine light swept across the crowd. Except for Yifei, Di Fan and the others were shocked. They were delighted to find that the restriction on their bloodline had been lifted. Unfortunately, there was only one bronze rune in a bronze palace that could evolve into a bronze armor. Yifei was slightly disappointed. He looked at the crowd and said, "Who wants this bronze armor? Give it to Di Fan. Besides you, Di Fan is the strongest among us." Fu Renjia said. Di Fan shook his head and said, "That's not right. There's only one armor. It's not fair for anyone to take it. How about this? Let's play rock, paper, scissors. Whoever wins gets to take it. It's the same for the bronze armor found in the future." Okay. Yifei felt that this was a good idea. After all, not everyone here was his friend. He had to consider the feelings of the other young men from the family Jiwang. Most importantly, finally, the result of the rock-paper-scissors game was unexpected. Wu Yi was the winner. He was so happy that he jumped up and down. The others were speechless. Fortunately, since Xiao Chao could find the first bronze palace, he could definitely find the second one. Yi Fei didn't have to worry about the bronze armor. Moreover, Di Fan and the others had recovered their bloodline. They had full combat power. If they attacked together, they could deal with some ordinary young geniuses. Therefore, Yi Fei let him go after Chen Xiaoyao didn't kill him. Since Chen Xiaoyao didn't choose to kill him, Yi Fei wouldn't kill him either. With Xiao Chao's help, they found another bronze palace. This time, the bronze palace was hidden in a more secluded place. It was actually a cave. This was why this palace hadn't been discovered and no one had come close to it. Yi Fei was thick-skinned again. Under by Yinran's admiring gaze, he pretended to be a grandmaster of spiritual augmentation again. He easily cracked the formation and obtained a second bronze armor. This time, the result of the rock-paper-scissors game was even more surprising. It was actually a young man from the family Jiwang who won. However, this young man was very tactful and directly gave the battle suit to Ji Feng. After all, these family Jiwang youths had received orders to assist Ji Feng. If they obtained any benefits, they would first help Ji Feng increase his strength. Even Yi Fei was envious of them. This was the advantage of a big family. No, however, he also had an advantage that others didn't have, and that was Xiao Chao's special ability to sense the energy of heaven and earth. Relying on this feeling, Yi Fei quickly found the third bronze palace. The location of this palace was even more tricky. It was actually hidden underground. If it wasn't for Xiao Chao's special senses, no one would have been able to discover it unless they were someone with heaven-defying luck. This also made Yi Fei understand that on the bloody battlefield, strength was a part of it. Luck was also a large part of it. Although Yi Fei's heaven-abandoned body was especially unlucky, he still had Di Fan, a saint with great luck, by his side. After searching for a while, Yi Fei actually found 7 bronze palaces consecutively that no one else had discovered. Moreover, the locations of these bronze palaces were extremely secretive. No one competed with them at all. Yi Fei also let Di Fan, Fu Renjia, by Shizhong, by Yanran, and Chu Ling put on the bronze armor. There were even 2 lucky family Jiwang youths who were given 2 pieces each. This made the lineup of the team even more luxurious. However, the bloody battlefield was after all a place where tens of thousands of young prodigies from several light bridges were gathered. With so many prodigies, even if only half of them could enter the bloody battlefield in the end, it would still be a considerable number. And thus, just as Xiao Chao sensed the 8th bronze palace, Yi Fei and the others once again encountered a large group of people fighting over the bronze palace. At this time, the formation of the bronze palace had already been broken. There was even a small group of 3 people that had already entered the palace and obtained the bronze armor inside. Unfortunately, just as they were about to leave, they were discovered by another group of more than 10 people. Moreover, among this group of more than 10 people, 7 of them were wearing bronze armor. This immediately put the 3 people in an absolute passive position. When Yi Fei and the others arrived, 2 of them were already injured. The other person was also in a precarious situation. However, the bronze armor on his body was extremely powerful. It actually had 4 runes. That was why he had bitterly held on until now. Look, when it came to that person, Chu Ling's eyes immediately became filled with shock. It's Zhang Ju, Rising Dragon Sect's senior Uncle Zhang's disciple. Yi Fei looked, and indeed, discovered that the one who was resisting the most fiercely was the Rising Dragon Fist of the Rising Dragon Sect. However, his Rising Dragon Fist was extremely stiff and not as nimble as we use. It was obvious that he hadn't grasped the essence of the Rising Dragon Fist and was just barely using it. If it weren't for the armor he's wearing, this Zhang Ju definitely wouldn't have been able to last until now, said Di Fan. Yi Fei nodded inwardly. Since there's a fight here, let's leave. No. When I was young, Senior Uncle Zhang took great care of me. Now that his disciple is in trouble, it's reasonable for me to not save him. Yi Fei, why don't you all leave first? Chu Ling shook her head somewhat sadly. She knew of the grudge between Yi Fei and Zhang Wangu, so she didn't want to force Yi Fei. However, she could not save Zhang Ju. Yi Fei sighed and looked at Wu Yu. Wu Yu, what about you? I don't have any friends in the Rising Dragon sect. Other than Chu Ling, there's only you. Whatever you do, I'll do, said Wu Yu straightforwardly. After all, he wasn't familiar with Zhang Ju. It didn't matter whether he saved him or not. Yi Fei sighed again. Like Wu Yu, he only had 2 friends in the Rising Dragon sect. One was Wu Yu, and the other was Chu Ling. If he didn't help, with Chu Ling's strength alone, not only would she not be able to save Zhang Ju, she might even lose her life. Forget it. For Chu Ling's sake, we'll save him. Yi Fei finally made up his mind. He took the lead and rushed towards the Bronze Palace. Chu Ling felt a warm feeling in her heart. She was very happy. Bai Shizhong, on the other hand, warned by Yanran bitterly. Sister, you've seen how big of a disaster this Yi Fei is. Another pure girl has been harmed by him. You must never get close to him in the future. Brother, what nonsense are you talking about? Moreover, I feel that Yi Fei's character is true. He's a brave man. How is he a disaster? Bai Yanran blinked her eyes. She looked at Yi Fei with admiration. Bai Shizhong seemed to have lost his soul. He slapped himself on the spot. It's over. It's completely over. Father, mother, your son is unfilial. I didn't protect my sister well. I failed to live up to your expectations. Boom. Bai Yanran didn't mention Shizhong's self-reproach. Seeing Yi Fei's appearance, the cultivators surrounding Zhang Ju were shocked. However, they immediately separated themselves from the crowd, wanting to stop Yi Fei. However, before they could get close, Yi Fei's hand was already filled with sword light. It formed a destructive sword light that soared into the sky. In an instant, those cultivators were sent flying while vomiting blood. Everyone's face was filled with shock. Chapter 2742. The Heart of a Villain. Yi Fei, the devil who offended senior brother Wangu, is actually not dead and has entered the bloody battlefield? Zhang Ju looked at Yi Fei in disbelief. After all, not only had Yi Fei refused to submit to Zhang Wangu and join the Sky Alliance, but he had also been too close to Chu Ling. This had made Zhang Wangu very unhappy. Furthermore, Yi Fei had also offended Lu Mohan. In many people's opinion, Yi Fei would probably die in the Great Void before he could even pass the first stage. However, not only had Yi Fei not died, but he had actually become even stronger. This also made the despairing Zhang Ju suddenly feel a strong sense of hope. He no longer looked down on Yi Fei for overestimating himself. Instead, he shouted hopefully, "Junior brother Yi, save me. As long as you are willing to save me, I am willing to give you the bronze runes that I obtained." The bronze runes were the foundation of the bronze armor. At the same time, the more runes that were integrated into the bronze armor, the stronger the bloodline would be. Zhang Ju was afraid that Yi Fei would not be able to defeat these people and give up on saving him. Thus, he made such a promise. However, Yi Fei was completely unmoved by this promise. The reason he had made a move was not to save Zhang Ju, but purely for Chu Ling's sake. Kill. Taiji Calamity Sword. Without giving these people any time to react, Yi Fei directly used his strongest sword Dao and attacked the leader. That person's expression immediately became extremely gloomy. As he burned his bloodline and activated the bronze armor to block the sword light, he roared angrily, "Yi Fei, you offended Lu Mohan. Don't tell me you want to offend the Blood Alliance too?" The Blood Alliance. The peerless genius of the Blood Refinement sect, which had been created by Taimu Cha, had joined the Blood Refinement sect. There were also some young powerhouses who were very close to the Blood Refinement sect. The leader was the Blood Alliance's combat hallmaster. His combat strength was very strong. Just now, he had suppressed Zhang Ju and the other 2 people by himself. What was even more frightening was that the bronze armor on his body actually had 5 runes. On the bloody battlefield, the number of runes had a terrifying effect on a martialist's bloodline. Therefore, even though he knew that he was facing Yi Fei, the Blood Alliance's combat hall master didn't show any fear. Instead, he roared angrily and started fighting with Yi Fei. Countless blood-colored chains appeared on his body and sealed the space. They were like giant blood-colored pythons that wanted to coil around Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei's expression immediately became serious. The 12 layers of the seal of life and death were blasted out in an instant. At the same time, Yi Fei stepped into the air. Sword light spread from his feet, and a terrifying Taiji sword diagram appeared in the air. Together with the seal of life and death, it continuously blasted his opponent's body. Zhang Ju was extremely shocked to see that the Blood Alliance's combat hall master, who had suppressed him until he was in a sorry state, was blasted back by Yi Fei's series of attacks. He continuously vomited blood and frantically retreated. All the Blood Alliance disciples were shocked by Yi Fei's strength. He clearly has 1 rune less than the Hall Master's armor. Why can't the Hall Master even take a single blow from him? This Hall Master's Dark Force is too weak. With his Dark Force, he can only release 1 Great Void superpower at a time. However, Yi Fei can release multiple Great Void superpowers. In a situation where the difference in armor is not too big, his defeat is inevitable. Di Fan shook his head coldly. The difference between the Blood Alliance's combat hall master and Yi Fei was Dark Force. Yi Fei's Dark Force was unusually dense. It could support him to release multiple Great Void superpowers at a time, especially the Seal of Life and Death. It was much stronger than ordinary Great Void superpowers. This was why Yi Fei was able to exert such great pressure on the combat hall master in terms of superpowers. With such pressure, the combat hall master finally gave up on fighting Yi Fei alone. Instead, he let out a shrill howl. Behind him, all the Blood Alliance members roared angrily and surrounded Yi Fei. Seeing this, Yi Fei laughed coldly. If you want to gang up on me, then let's attack together. Family Jiwang, follow me and kill. Hearing Yi Fei's words, Ji Feng, who swore to follow Yi Fei at the arena of life and death, led the family Jiwang's young men and charged forward without hesitation. Di Fan, Fu Renjia, Bai Shizhong, Wu Yu, and the rest behind them burst out with bright bronze radiance. It almost scared the Blood Alliance members silly. They would never have thought that Yi Fei's team would be so luxurious. They had more than 10 pieces of bronze armor, while the Blood Alliance only had 5 pieces of armor. This was too much of a bully. The combat hall master of the Blood Alliance was so angry that he almost vomited blood. I thought that the mantis stalks the cicada, but I didn't expect the oriole to be behind it. Stop fighting. We admit defeat. We can give you all our bronze armor, but please let us live. It should be known that killing was not prohibited in the bloody battlefield. Compared to the bronze armor, the combat hall master of the Blood Alliance felt that his life was more important. Hearing this, Yi Fei decisively stopped. After all, the other party had 5 people with bronze armor. If they really fought, there might be casualties. It was best to defeat them without fighting. Hand over all your bronze armor, and you can leave, Yi Fei said coldly. Thank you. Blood Alliance's combat hall master practically squeezed those 2 words out of his gritted teeth. He cast a few deep glances at Yi Fei before he endured the pain and threw the bronze armor on his body to Yi Fei. Seeing that the combat hall master had admitted defeat, the other 4 members of the Blood Alliance also helplessly handed over their bronze armor and quickly left the area. Yi Fei, you demon. The Blood Alliance will remember what happened today. The furious voice of the combat hall master came from afar. When Yi Fei heard this voice, he felt wronged for some reason. He was clearly an honest person. Why was it that no matter where he went, people would call him a demon? I've suffered a huge loss this time. If I had known that he was so powerful, I wouldn't have promised to give him the bronze armor. When he saw that Yi Fei had easily forced the Blood Alliance to leave and even obtained a large number of bronze armor, Zhang Ju suddenly felt extremely regretful. Zhang Wangu's attitude toward Yi Fei was also very bad. If he got too close to Yi Fei, he would definitely offend senior brother Wangu. Zhang Ju quickly made up his mind. He suddenly grasped the bronze talisman tightly in his hand. This time, he cupped his hands politely and helplessly at Yi Fei. Junior brother Yi, thank you for your help this time. Originally, I should have given you this talisman. Unfortunately, I came on senior brother Wangu's orders to obtain it. I don't dare make the decision on my own. Why don't you wait here while I go and ask senior brother Wangu for instructions? Chapter 2743. Two birds with one stone. No one present was a fool. Even the naive Chu Ling could tell that Zhang Ju was trying to act shamelessly and not hand over the bronze rune. Chu Ling was so angry that her body was trembling. Zhang Ju, if you want to go back on your words, just say it. Why do you have to use Zhang Wangu as an excuse? To think that we risked our lives to save you. At this moment, Chu Ling was really hurt. Yi Fei's expression also became cold. He said indifferently to Chu Ling, Chu Ling, you don't need to be angry with this kind of person. In the past, you lacked experience and were too naive. Now, you should know that people's hearts are sinister. Sometimes, people from the same sect aren't necessarily friends. They can also be enemies. Enemies? Yi, what do you mean by that? You're slandering my reputation. If this reaches Senior Wangu's ears, you'll be in trouble. Zhang Ju's face was filled with anger as he emphasized, Senior Wangu is nearby. I'm not going back on my words. You're just a stupid bird. Boom. He couldn't be bothered to say anything more to Zhang Ju. If people treat me well, I'll treat them well. If people treat me badly, I'll treat them even worse. Zhang Ju's attitude had completely angered Yi Fei. He immediately threw a punch at Zhang Ju. The two of them were using the same Rising Dragon Fist, but the difference between them wasn't even on the same level. Yi Fei's Rising Dragon Fist quickly broke through Zhang Ju's Rising Dragon Fist. His punch even injured Zhang Ju, causing him to vomit blood. You devil, what are you doing? Zhang Ju's face was filled with fear. He had already emphasized that Zhang Wangu was nearby. Did Yi Fei eat a bear's heart or a leopard's guts? He still dared to attack him. Then, a terrifying aura of death enveloped Zhang Ju. Hand over your battle suit and scram. Yi Fei's tone was cold. He shouldn't have any misgivings when dealing with a despicable person like Zhang Ju. When it was time to attack, he should attack with force. Di Fan and the others behind him also revealed killing intent. Even Chu Ling had a look of disgust on her face and turned her head away. Zhang Ju's eyes could not help but flash with a hint of resentment. However, in the face of Yi Fei's strength, he simply had no way of resisting. He could only endure the pain and turn all his combat robes into runes and hand them to Yi Fei. Demon Yi, just you wait. Senior brother Wangu will not let you off. With a schwa sound, Zhang Ju left with boundless hatred. He did not even care about his two injured and unconscious companions. Yi Fei looked at Zhang Ju with disdain. If it weren't for Chu Ling's presence and the Rising Dragon sect's rule that disciples were not allowed to kill each other, just based on Zhang Ju's despicable actions alone, he definitely wouldn't have let him leave. Yi Fei looked at the bronze rune in his hand. Zhang Ju had handed over a total of 4 runes. There were also 4 runes that he had obtained from the Blood Union's Battle Hall Master, in addition to the 4 runes that Yi Fei already had. With that, he now had 12 bronze runes. Boom! Yi Fei began to try to merge all the bronze runes together. In an instant, the bronze combat robes on his body exploded with an incomparably bright light. An aura that was several times stronger than before appeared on his body. That was the aura of a legendary prodigy. With the help of the bronze combat robes, I have finally reached the level of a legendary prodigy. Yi Fei's emotions were faintly stirred. However, when he thought of the white-clothed figure in the sky, Yi Fei quickly calmed down. There were also differences in strength between legendary prodigies. With the help of the combat robes, he was only the weakest legendary prodigy. If he wanted to become stronger, and even surpass Lu Mohan and Chen Xiaoyao. He would need to obtain more combat robes. Xiao Chao, continue to search for the Bronze Palace's location. I need more combat robes. After distributing the remaining 5 low-grade combat robes to the 5 youths from the family Zhuang, Yi Fei once again walked into the depths of the blood-colored battlefield. Not long after Yi Fei left, a black-robed figure wearing a purple-gold robe suddenly appeared on the blood-red battlefield without a sound. This figure directly rushed to the side of the 2 unconscious cultivators. A purple-gold fist suddenly blasted out, killing the 2 unconscious cultivators on the spot. Their blood essence was completely absorbed by the black-robed figure. After that, the black-robed figure continued to chase in the direction that Yi Fei had left. However, no one knew about this. A few hours later, a sword light suddenly flashed across the sky from afar. A few tyrannical figures flew towards the abandoned bronze palace. The one at the front was a terrifying figure with a fiend god shadow behind him. Under the feet of this figure was a terrifying giant dragon. The giant dragon was holding a person in its claws. That person was none other than Zhang Ju, who had escaped earlier. Zhang Ju hadn't lied. Zhang Wangu was indeed nearby. After Yi Fei had taken away his bronze combat robes, Zhang Ju had harbored a grudge in his heart. Thus, he had run over to Zhang Wangu and revealed Yi Fei's location. When he heard that Yi Fei had also entered the blood-colored battlefield, Zhang Wangu was very surprised. Then, when he heard that Yi Fei had snatched Zhang Ju's bronze combat robes, he couldn't help but feel a great deal of anger in his heart. Very well. It's fine that Yi Fei went against me in the Great Void City, but he even dared to snatch my bronze combat robes in the blood-colored battlefield. However, the sect has rules that prohibit mutual killing. Brother Zhang Wangu, I can only leave this matter to you. Zhang Wangu looked behind him and saw a young man with a blazing halo. This young man had a handsome face that looked almost exactly like Lu Xiaohua. He was the genius of the Blazing Flame sect and Lu Xiaohua's biological brother. However, Lu Yuhua didn't know that his brother's combat robes had already been snatched away by Yi Fei. Lu Yuhua just happened to be cooperating with the Sky Alliance to obtain the bronze combat robes. Therefore, when he found out that Yi Fei might have the bronze combat robes on him, Lu Yuhua's interest was piqued. He said coldly, "Brother Wangu, leave this matter to me. I guarantee that not even his ashes will remain. However, the combat robes on his body, they're all yours. I only want his life." Zhang Wangu said without hesitation. "Haha, then it's a deal." Lu Yuhua was very satisfied. In his opinion, killing Yi Fei was a very easy task. This way, he could befriend Zhang Wangu and obtain a large number of bronze runes. It was a good thing to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Lu Yuhua immediately called out a disciple from the Blazing Flame sect who was good at tracking. The disciple followed Yi Fei's footsteps and chased after them. Zhang Ju, on the other hand, was extremely dissatisfied. After all, he had lured Zhang Wangu over to teach Yi Fei a lesson with the intention of taking back the bronze combat robes that he had lost. However, Zhang Wangu had actually given all the combat robes to someone else without even asking. Zhang Ju was angry, but he didn't dare say anything. He could only beat around the bush and say, "Senior Wangu, I'm afraid that you're nurturing a tiger by doing this. Yi Fei's group has a lot of combat robes. If Lu Yuhua takes all of them, he will immediately have a silver combat robe. At that time, his combat strength will very likely surpass yours." "Humph, surpass me? He won't have that chance. After all, Yi Fei is also a disciple of the Dragon Rising sect. Tell me, Lu Yuhua killed my fellow disciple. As the eldest senior brother of the Dragon Rising sect, shouldn't I avenge him?" Chapter 2744. Hunting. After all, Yi Fei had more than 10 pieces of battle armor on him. If he could seize all of them, not only would the Sky Alliance's strength increase, but Zhang Wangu would also be able to immediately upgrade his battle armor to the silver grade and continue entering the blood-colored battlefield. How could Zhang Wangu be willing to hand over these battle armor to Lu Yuhua? He had only said this because he wanted to use Lu Yuhua to deal with Yi Fei first. Then, he would step in and snatch the battle armor from Lu Yuhua's body. When he understood this, Zhang Zhu finally stopped worrying. He knew that Zhang Wangu would definitely not treat him unfairly based on this contribution. At the moment, Zhang Zhu had completely forgotten who it was that had saved him when he was in danger. Yi Fei, who continued to enter, did not know that a conspiracy had already surrounded him and was gradually revealing itself. After leaving the 8th Bronze Palace, Yi Fei quickly discovered the 9th and 10th Bronze Palaces by relying on the senses of the Xiao Chao's Heaven and Earth Divine Eye. However, these palaces were all being contested by people. Clearly, the deeper they entered the blood-colored battlefield, the more intense the struggle for the Bronze Palaces became. However, with the enhancement of Yi Fei's powerful battle armor, these martialists simply could not match up to him. Yi Fei smoothly seized another 2 bronze palaces and used his martial prowess to forcefully seize several pieces of battle armor. This way, not only did he equip himself, but he also gave everyone in the team a piece of battle armor. However, because of this, Yi Fei also became the focus of many people's attention. After all, the battle armor of Yi Fei and his team was too luxurious. If everyone added up, they would probably be able to obtain 2 pieces of silver-gray battle armor. Naturally, very few people dared to provoke Yi Fei. Normally, Yi Fei would be able to dominate the blood-colored battlefield without any problems. However, for some reason, Yi Fei felt like he was being targeted. After chasing away another group of ancient nation martialists who had been fighting over the bronze palaces, Yi Fei was not in a hurry to break the array. Instead, he turned around doubtfully and looked into the darkness of the great void. Bai Yanran, who was more thoughtful, could not help but ask curiously, "Yi Fei, this is already the 3rd time you have turned around. Is there something wrong behind you? Or is someone following you?" Following you? Could be Zhang Wangu. Chu Ling and Wu Yu's expressions changed. After all, Zhang Zhu had said that Zhang Wangu was nearby. Yi Fei had snatched Zhang Zhu's battle armor, so if Zhang Zhu held a grudge, then he might very well betray Yi Fei. Actually, Yi Fei was also a little worried about this matter. However, after thinking about it, he firmly denied it. It can't be Zhang Wangu. The disciples of the Rising Dragon sect are strictly forbidden from killing each other. Otherwise, Zhang Wangu would have personally dealt with me in the Great Void City. The reason why he did not make a move must be because he was worried about his senior brother's face, so he could not openly make a move. After saying that, Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. His consciousness entered the beast mark space, and he asked, "Xiao Chao, have you discovered any suspicious people nearby?" Xiao Chao nodded solemnly, indicating that there were suspicious people everywhere. After all, everyone was wearing a battle armor now. It was inevitable that they would attract attention. In fact, there were many martialists in the vicinity of the bronze palaces, secretly observing Yi Fei's actions. This was not to say that Yi Fei was special. It was just that when facing a powerful opponent, the major factions that entered the bloody battlefield would send out spies to observe in secret. It was better to know oneself and know one's enemy. For example, the peerless geniuses like Zhang Wangu and Qin Xiaoyao would have even more spies secretly observing them. Because of the existence of these people, Yi Fei could not determine whether he was being followed or not. He could not help but feel a little bewildered. But he did not know that somewhere in the darkness of the Great Void, Lu Yuhua, who had already tracked down Yi Fei, was also bewildered when she heard the report of spy that Yi Fei had stopped in front of a bronze palace. Strange, why did Yi Fei suddenly stop? Senior brother Lu, could it be that Yi Fei discovered that we were lying in ambush behind him? A disciple of the Blazing Flame sect asked worriedly. Lu Yuhua shook her head decisively and said, "That's not very likely. In the Great Void, no one can use their consciousness. They can only observe with their eyes. As long as we are far enough away from him, he won't be able to discover us. But this Yi Fei is very strange. The locations of the bronze palaces are usually very well hidden. However, he seems to know their locations in advance. Wherever he goes, he can discover the hidden bronze palaces. Senior brother, I suspect that this person might have some secret technique that could detect the location of the bronze palaces, the disciple in charge of tracking said in a low voice. Lu Yuhua's expression turned even uglier when she heard this. It's precisely because this Yi Fei is strange that we have to be careful. Zhang Wangu wants to use me as a tool to help him eliminate Yi Fei. Does he think that I'm stupid? Immediately send someone to hurry up and ask when Duan Tian and Chui Min's men can arrive. Haha, Brother Yuhua, there's no need to rush them. We're already here. A loud laugh came from a young man in green robes. His fingernails were as black as ink. This person was Duan Tian, the prodigy of the myriad poison sect. He had a good relationship with Lu Yuhua. Not far from Duan Tian was another group of people. They were all wearing the uniform of the heaven-cleaving sect. The leader was a pair of partners. Although their talents were not as good as Duan Tian and Lu Yuhua's, they were good at fighting enemies together and were very powerful. Their appearance immediately made Lu Yuhua's spirits rise. She happily went up to them and said, Zhang Wangu wants to use me to deal with Yi Fei. However, I, Lu Yuhua, am not stupid. Look, I quickly invited Duan Tian and Chui Min over. Let's hunt this demon Yi Fei together. Zhang Wangu, let's not talk so much. You just need to tell us how many people Yi Fei has in his group and how many combat suits they have. Once we're done, how are we going to split them? Chui Min asked sharply. Lu Yuhua's face darkened. She said, there are less than 20 of them, but every one of them has combat suits. Especially Yi Fei. The level of his combat suit is almost the same as ours. If we can get it, at least 2 of us will have silver combat suits. But there are 3 of us here. Duan Tian's expression turned ugly. Lu Yuhua smiled mysteriously and said, I also know that Yi Fei seems to have some kind of secret technique that allows him to find a bronze palace no matter where he goes. Brother Duan, are you interested in this secret technique? Duan Tian's eyes lit up when he heard this. He nodded coldly and said, sure. I want Yi Fei's secret technique. I also want his head. It said that Lu Mohan is very interested in Yi Fei's head. Ha ha ha. Then it's settled. Let's make our move now to avoid any more trouble. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.